Speaking out of Akron, Ohio, representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome everyone to the Spotlight, and shout out to Big Dick MLJ for the intro. As always, I'm Jeremy Lambert. That is Stephen Jensen. Jensen, I'd ask you how you're doing, but to peel back the curtain here a little bit, the first thing you say to me in our little backstage, I don't want to call it a meeting, but in our greeting, I'm ready to piss some people off.
Yeah, no, I was kind of kidding about that. I know that there's just a lot of people that listen. I didn't even make the headline or the title for this video. Okay, like someone else
kind of did. You kind of did.
Kind of. So okay, we'll peel back the curtain a little bit more. So when me and Jeremy are coming up with our topics each week, we send them back and forth to each other for all the categories and stuff. And what I had sent to Jeremy for the WWE topic was. It wasn't anything that crazy. I just said
it was just LA Knight loses. It was not Rey Mysterio wins.
Yeah.
It was LA Knight loses.
LA Knight loses US Championship Invitational is what I messaged you. Yeah. Which honestly was the bigger topic though, to be fair, because like that seems like what the discourse was for for everybody on social media was just all talking about how LA Knight should have won, and it should be him going for the US title, and like he's getting wronged off SummerSlam, and he might get this push after SummerSlam. Might as well just hit the bumper for the WWE topics.
We can do that. Let's jump right into it.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
I don't know if the story is going to finish for LA Knight, who keeps losing. I mean, we should throw up another graphic here, and it's that graphic. Go ahead, Stephen Jensen.
I mean, what do you want me to say that hasn't already been said? That's kind of the tough thing about this kind of stuff is like people know how I feel about LA Knight. I think if he was to go for like the US title, that's fine. Like he's definitely over. There's like a level that I think that he would work at right now in the WWE, and I think that like if you have him kind of in like the upper mid card, he could possibly transcend into the main event scene without it being a problem for me. It's possible. As things stand right now, I've had people like tweeting or Xing at me, whatever you call it now, and like strangers, people that watch the show or watch my show with Doug or whatever. Listen to the Weekend or whatever it is. And this past Friday on SmackDown, I wasn't watching SmackDown, but I had people messaging me going, so like honestly, there was some people that hit me up and they were like, "Oh no, like I see what you're seeing now. Like there's no substance to this." My thing, this is the headline right here, Jeremy. LA Knight has substance issues. I don't think we can do. I don't think I can do that at a headline. And I'm obviously the joke being that which we would not actually do that. I would not want to misrepresent. I'm just making a joke, obviously, but the joke being that he doesn't have like substance abuse issues. He has substance issues. Like there's no substance to the things that he's saying. Jeremy, take the screen away. I think it's time for I need to be able to see you for this. Okay. Can you lean back a little bit so I can see what you're wearing?
It's a Taylor Swift shirt.
Perfect. Okay. You ready for promo time with LA Knight?
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I'm gonna do LA Knight for everybody right here, right now. Okay. This is every single time you see the man on television. Music hits, people pop. All right. Starts walking out of the ring, has a microphone in his hand. This is his big moment. This is his big chance to make an impression, to stay over with the crowd, and to say something that means something. Jeremy, you're sitting there in your black shirt. Yeah. Sitting there in the black headphones. Yeah. Sitting there in your black Taylor Swift shirt. Yeah. But guess what, Jeremy? Today, you're in LA Knight's ring. That's the bottom line. If you smell, with everybody saying L.A. Knight, yeah. That's every promo. He just says what's right in front of him, his own name, and yeah, it's every single promo. Just say anything. Just say anything to me about who you actually are.
I don't think he does. If you smell, I don't think that's him.
Yeah, right. But I've been saying, like, listen, I get it though. He's different. Like the song, Jeremy. Remember that song? I'm different. Yeah, I'm different.
I don't. What
yeah, you don't remember that song? I'm different. Yeah, I'm different. People in the chat are gonna remember that one. That was from like a handful of years ago. It's a pretty big song. And he's different, dude. Like when The Rock does the rock bottom, he does this before. When LA Knight does it, he does this. When Steve Austin did the stunner, he would kick you in the gut and then he'd put you up like this and then he'd drop down. LA Knight kicks you in the gut and he does this and then he drops down, but just a little bit different. So like it is different.
He is doing this like jumping elbow thing now. Have you seen this?
Yeah, and he sets it up just like the people's elbow. He stands over them, or like feet to shoulders, and then he does his little thing, and then he goes off the rope and does an elbow, just like The Rock would. So, that's just kind of where I'm at, man. Like this last promo was, that it was pretty much what I just did, except he just went, I'm pretty sure the whole promo was like, yeah, LA Knight's here. Listen, everybody. Yeah, I get invited to every party I get invited to. And I want to go to SummerSlam. Go for the U.S. Championship. Yeah. With everybody saying LA Knight. Yeah. Like, that's the whole promo. It's just like, I get invited to every party I want to get invited to. That's the big, dude, say something. You got the whole WWE universe is eating on the palm of your hand, dude. They're marking out your music hits, they pop big. You say yeah, they all repeat it. Just include anything.
Isn't this the brilliance of LA Knight though? He doesn't have to say anything, and this man
dummy
is that over. Cody is cutting sermons out here talking about the debt relief program, and he wishes he could get a reaction like LA Knight.
Are you kidding me? Cody is so much more actually over. This is like LA Knight's over in the same day that like Rusev Day was over. Like you have to have more substance than just this, what he's doing currently. Listen, what he's doing currently, I think could work to get to like the US Championship, but I don't know, man. It's just kind of maddening, and he's just not very good in the ring. It just is what it is. Now, I always need to make this really clear. I've been watching this guy for like 20 years, so this isn't like new to me. I've already gone through decades of Eli Drake, yeah, dummy. Like I know, and he hasn't brought up the dummy alarm or whatever that thing, the dummy button yet, but like he probably will. And people will mark out for it.
Yeah, as they should.
But that's just where I'm at once again. It seems like more people are agreeing with me lately, which I think is pretty funny because they're like, dude, oh my God, I'm starting to listen to these promos and like, he's not saying anything. It's like, yeah, but once again, it's fixable to me. Listen, he has a great head start, right? But how many times have we seen this happen in the WWE? This happens all the time where the fans get behind somebody big time and then like it just fizzles out. Think about where Sami Zayn was at like 6 months ago versus right now. And Sami Zayn, I would argue, is in a completely different stratosphere as a performer than LA Knight is. And he couldn't keep that momentum. The WWE fan base is very fickle.
Yeah. Well, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
We're not using Sami Zayn here because Sami Zayn was in the top program with the Bloodline, and then he had the peak of his story. The peak of his story, whether you want to call it the Roman match, which I don't think it was. Had he won, then yes. But sure. The peak of his story was the tag team title match at WrestleMania. That was the peak. It was always momentum was gonna tail from there. They did him no favors the night after WrestleMania where they did the weird thing with the Street Profits that whatever happened there. They've done nothing to keep up the momentum of Sami Zayn. That is Sami Zayn's.
Oh, I'm not blaming Sami Zayn at all. I like Sami Zayn is a really great performer. He really, like, overall, he's one of the best performers that WWE has. My point is, like, they will eventually get tired of, or like, this is the crossroads. No pun intended. The crossroads is LA Knight has to either be more than just the guy who just blurts these catchphrases and has mediocre matches. Because if that's what continues to happen, like they're going to sour on him, they're going to find another person to get behind, or the WWE is just going to like squash him. Like when Zack, this is probably the best example, is probably Zack Ryder, honestly, because Zack Ryder got super over in the WWE, a very talented guy in my opinion. In all honesty, a guy who had substance, a goofy gimmick. I wasn't big on like the Jersey Shore type gimmick, but it worked for him and for the time that he was doing it. And I've always thought that Zack Ryder was really good, like very, very solid in the ring, like could have really good matches, lifelong wrestling fan. It translates in his work. And it is one of those things where like, even Zack Ryder, eventually they were just like, all right, we're just going to push this dude off the stage in a wheelchair and just be done with this. Like this isn't. And my other thing, just really quick, is that everyone's really upset that LA Knight isn't going to get this shot for the US Championship at SummerSlam or whatever. And my thing is, y'all think it's possible that just like Santos Escobar is like a star? You know, like why does anyone have a problem with Santos Escobar being in this spot? Like that guy actually is great. So
I don't think people have a problem with Santos Escobar, but isn't this a WWE problem that, hey, here's this guy who is super over. Here's this claim. We listen to our audience. We are week to week programming and scripting. We get immediate feedback from our audience on what they want to see. They want to see this guy.
Mm-hmm.
You can call him simple. You can call him basic. You can say he has substance issues. Whatever you want to say,
right.
Doesn't matter. He connects with this audience, right? And I know you're saying that a lot of people are coming around to you. I said it the other week on the show. Like, yeah, some of these promos, I get what you're saying, Jensen. I do.
Sure.
Majority of the viewing audience, majority of the live audience still reacts huge to this man. Isn't this a WWE issue that they have this man in front of them and like, nope, we're just going to do something else. We're going to just try. We're going to not give you this guy that you love. Instead, I don't think it's an issue with Santos Escobar, but it will become a Santos Escobar issue when the audience resents him because they want this person and they're getting this person.
Which is, that's all, like, I agree with everything you just said. You know, it's a tough spot to be in. Now I'll start off the response to all of that by quoting, you know, my hero, Big Sexy Kevin Nash. And, you know, just reiterate and remind everybody that's watching this, you know, you think you matter, but you don't. So we just got to keep that, you know, I'm holding down LA Knight just like you're sitting at home getting them pushed. You know what I mean?
Yes. Can you tell that to the entire audience? You think you matter, but you don't. After years of being told you matter, you're the most important thing in our business.
Do you actually think that? Hold on a second, Jeremy. How many? This isn't like a new thing. Like WWE.
No, but this is the problem.
No, I agree, but why would they change it now? Like, listen, then there's another line of thinking which I don't necessarily agree with. In full transparency, I think it's smart for the WWE just to go with whatever's hot. Like at least try. Okay. So whether or not I'm a fan of LA Knight is honestly irrelevant. He's over. They should be at least putting him in the US title match. He should be at least on the pay-per-view. Like they need to try to capitalize on this and see where it goes. I'll agree with that. But I also think that the way the WWE thinks is they're like, okay, we have this guy who's over who we weren't expecting to have over, but he is. That's kind of a bonus for us. But like he's kind of over. We can do something with him, but like, we actually want to get over Escobar. We actually want to get over this person or that person. Like they have actual plans that they actually want to use for other people. And there's just a bonus that there's this other guy who happens to be super over right now that they can do stuff with. But I don't know if it, the other thing about this too, once again, I need to like make it super clear. To me, this is really, really old because I've seen it for so long. To the WWE audience, this is new and this is fresh. he's like 40 years old. This isn't LA Knight's not some like young like face of the company. And granted, I sound like a hypocrite right now because Cody isn't either. Cody is almost 40 as well. Like I think there's a big difference in levels there personally, but that's just my own personal opinion. Like, so I would say there's a lot of things working against LA Knight, but to his credit, and here's the thing about him, honestly, if he ever hears anything I'm saying about him, if he ever hears anything anyone else is saying about him,
punches you in the face if he does.
Listen, he doesn't have the right to do that. I shouldn't say that. I hope no one would actually fight me over my wrestling opinions ever, because that's kind of crazy. But because part of me is also I'm trying to obviously ride a line of being entertaining here on the show too, because I know people like hearing me address my enemies and all that kind of stuff. But like, I just in all honesty, if he hears people like me saying these things, or like, he honestly should just ignore it. Like, really, just ignore it and keep doing your thing. Whatever you're doing is working to some degree. It definitely is. It's undeniable that, even like I said, when my brother was watching the Money in the Bank show with me, he'd never seen LA Knight before, and during the match, he wasn't like super blown away by the promo or the in-ring work or anything like that, but he kept turning to me going, the crowd loves this guy. Like, this is pretty nuts. Like, every time he gets near the ladder, they erupt, and I couldn't deny that. I was like, yeah, man, like that is what it is. I mean, he is over. But I just, how many people have we seen in our 30 years of me and you watching professional wrestling that people get over for a very short amount of time? They don't have enough. It's like, dude, this is a good example. It's like a SoundCloud rapper. Okay, you might get super, super famous off of like a few really, really catchy songs, but those people's careers fizzle out so fast because they have no substance. They have a beat and a couple catchy songs, but then when it comes down to like a long-lasting actual library of music over years, they can't do it, and they have massive fall-offs over and over and over again. And I feel like that's kind of similar here. We're like, I'm not saying this is going to happen to LA Knight, by the way. I'm just saying he's at a spot right now where he is Lil Pump. You know what I mean? Like in 2017 or whatever. Okay. Like he can either become Drake or he can become Lil Xan. You know what I'm saying? So like,
but that's not actually his choice though. It's not his choice. WWE is the one who chooses of how much marketing they're going to put behind this
record
guy.
Labels though, to be fair.
Yeah, some record labels, sure, but
because these SoundCloud rappers get signed and then it becomes a thing. But yeah, I know, but I do understand what you're saying too. But every single person who's ever worked for the WWE is at the mercy of the opinion of Vince McMahon. That's why it's so cool to me that Cody has changed his opinion of him, because that's so difficult to do. Others have too, like Drew McIntyre did it. Like left, came back a totally different guy, and they were like, "Damn, this guy could be our champion now." I didn't see it before, but I see it now. Like. Obviously he was called the Chosen One, but then he had descended down to 3MB and then back up to where he is now. So, but to be fair, Jeremy, like that's every single person. Like every person who's ever worked the WWE is in a position where like Vince has to like you and have to want to push you, whether you agree with his. And that's the other thing too, by the way. I know it's not like the best look for me to be agreeing with Vince McMahon so often. Like I get that too. It is weird to me too, a guy who I don't have a whole lot in common with at this stage of the game. But there are certain people I agree with them on. Like, I agree with them on Bray Wyatt. I don't know what his real opinion of Bray Wyatt is, but I think I agree with him on Bray Wyatt and LA Knight. And unfortunately, the two of them were the two parts of the worst match I've ever seen. So, like, and that's so that's a whole other conversation in itself. But once again, Vince has to be on board. And what it sounds like, what everyone's saying, what everybody's saying, is that apparently he's going to get this big push after SummerSlam. My thing is, why wait till SummerSlam? You might as well just do it. If you're going to do it, like capitalize so he doesn't get cold and then it becomes a problem. But maybe they are waiting until after SummerSlam for something substantial. As long as it doesn't involve him anywhere near Roman Reigns or stepping on Cody's toes for that title, I'm fine with it.
See, I don't know how much people want out of LA Knight. Me personally, give him the US title. Austin Theory ain't doing nothing with that title. This Austin Theory reign has been a complete bust. They tried to give that man John Cena.
Yeah.
John Cena ripped him to shreds. He beat Cena. I understand he cheated, but did nothing with the momentum of beating John Cena. Everything John Cena said about Austin Theory prior to that promo turned out to be correct, because Austin Theory still had to show up and still had to win the fans, and he didn't do any of it. So Austin Theory's reign's been a complete bust. And when you do stuff like this, and by that I mean you have a hot act like LA Knight. You said it yourself. Your brother, he didn't watch it fully every week and stuff, but he sees the crowd reactions like, oh,
sure.
What's this guy's deal? And this is what happens. The crowd feeds off the crowd, right? It's like, oh, this guy's, maybe I don't get it, but you know what? Everyone else seems to get it. And it is a very much like, hey, let me try to fit in. Let me react for this guy. There's something here with him. So the crowd continues to pop, and then it builds and builds and builds and builds. And then if you do nothing with that, all you do is piss off your fan base. All you do is like, I invested in this guy, and what did I get out of this? Absolutely nothing. Ain't nothing wrong with a U.S. title reign. Let him go out there. Let him do his promos. Let him do the reign. And look, if it doesn't work, okay. If fans start to see like, maybe this isn't what we know, fans are fickle. But if fans start to come around to how you are of, you know what? The substance really isn't there. Let's get behind this guy now. We got LA Knight his moment. Now let's get behind that. That's fine. That's how the business goes. But if you don't actually do anything with what's in front of you and with the reactions you're getting right now, all you do is you upset those people, and then they don't come back. At least if you give them this and then they realize, maybe we don't want this, then fine. But at least you gave it to them in that moment. It's like, hey, I want this steak. I want this steak. I want this steak. Yeah, here's this hamburger. Take this hamburger and be happy with it. Just give me the steak. If I eat the steak and I don't like the steak and then I want a hamburger, fine, then give me the hamburger. At least I got my steak.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think this could be related to a lot of wrestlers, you know, but I think that right now in the situation LA Knight's in, I'd be fine with that. I agree with you about the Austin Theory stuff, by the way. And Austin Theory is a guy who I started watching him in Evolve when he was probably like 19. I remember seeing like a documentary on him on like YouTube or something like forever ago. I wish I could remember who did it. There was a guy, his name is escaping me. There was a guy who at one point was doing really good indie documentaries. This one though may have been on Vice actually, or like something like that. Anyway, I can't remember. I remember seeing something on Austin Theory years ago that like had like it was like a peek into his life. He was still only like 19, 20 at the time. And my whole point with that is like the guy's always been very talented. I felt like he had a very big. I still feel like he could have a big run in the WWE long term. But you're right. Like it isn't. Whatever is going on right now just currently isn't really working. And you have. I'll say this. I'll make a lot of people happy probably by saying this, and you as well. They like if it came down to it, they probably should put the U.S. title on LA Knight instead of Austin Theory and just try it. But you know. That's a big difference than like, let's push this guy. He should be the guy to beat Roman. Let's push this guy. He should be the face of this whole thing.
No, I'm not going that far.
No. I know you aren't, but I see a lot of people. It seems to be, but it isn't. Once again, this isn't just him. And a big part of it, man. I just lived through it so many times with so many people that get these quick pushes in the WWE, and then it just fizzles out. Remember when Fandango was real over for like a really short amount of time, and like he was the number one seller on iTunes for his song and all this stuff. He beat Chris Jericho at WrestleMania, and then it was like within like a few months, he wasn't on the show. And once again, this is not his fault, but I'm just saying like Vince has to be behind it, and I don't know how behind it he is with LA Knight. I don't know. I feel like if he was behind it, he'd already have been pushed. Like he wouldn't be losing qualifying matches, and he wouldn't be, he'd be on the show every week. He wouldn't be doing like dark segments to get the crowd hyped like before the show. Like he'd be main eventing the show like on television. But once again, maybe that's coming after SummerSlam. There's no way of knowing. I guess the assumption is that Austin Theory will retain the title, and then they'll do LA Knight and Austin Theory maybe. But I feel like there's a really good chance Santos Escobar could win that title because they're doing that whole thing with him and Ray, like mentoring him and everything. Which once again, I like that personally. I like Santos Escobar. I like the LWO. I like Rey Mysterio and everything they got going on with that. I think that's a good act. And I think they're a big key to it is I think they're all really good in the ring that are involved in that. I don't think Austin Theory is like necessarily the best, but you know what I mean? Like, I mean, if I think Santos Escobar of all the people we're mentioning is outside of Rey Mysterio, who's, I mean, if you call yourself a pro wrestling fan and you don't like Rey Mysterio, I don't know what to tell you. You know, so, you know, it just kind of is what it is. You know what I mean? I want to make it clear because there's a lot of people who like legitimately despise me right now because of my takes on LA Knight. And I just want y'all to know, like, it's all just opinion, obviously, but I understand where y'all are coming from to a degree. And I think y'all understand where I'm coming through to a degree as well. Where we don't see eye to eye is like, I'm totally cool with them just kind of like not pushing him because I've been watching him for 20 years. I've been watching the same shtick for so long, and it's just not entertaining to me personally. But if you want to see him get this big push and he gets it and it works, I'm not going to, trust me, nobody enjoys 180 flip-flopping than me. Trust me, the redemption arc I could have on this show if LA Knight wins me over and I become a fan of his, which is very possible. Very possible. Dude, I went from Brett Favre was the most hated athlete of my lifetime until I became a Minnesota Viking. And now I love that man. You know what I mean? Like I can flip-flop.
Admit that.
Well, sorry, as a football player, there's newer stuff that isn't as great about as a football player on the field. Okay, sorry, that might not be the best. But y'all know the comparison. The point is, he was the quarterback forever for my rival team. Hated the man. Became my quarterback. Played really well for a season. I was like, I forgot all about all the hate. You know. So, I'm just saying, LA Knight can win me over. It's just an uphill battle for me. I've been watching you for 2 decades, dude, doing the same thing. Like, you got to change it up at least a little bit for me to care. But the fans are reacting. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters in the WWE universe. But Vince has to be behind you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but Vince has to be behind you. Yeah.
What if, I'm going to throw this scenario at you, Jensen. What if LA Knight is basically, and look, this kind of happened to Cody. Fans were behind Cody. Everyone wants to see Cody win. They want Cody in this position. And Cody loses. This is basically what LA Knight fans are experiencing on a lower level. He's not losing in the main event of WrestleMania. Don't you like have a little bit of sympathy or a little bit of understanding with, we want this guy to win. We want this guy to win. They don't even want him. I mean, some do want him at the world title picture and everything. I just want him as a U.S. champion. That's it. It's like, you're not even going to make him the U.S. champion. It is very similar of the fans are behind this person. And instead of, you know what, let's go with the fans want. Nah, let's actually push the guy we want to push type of thing. It's a very similar situation.
And I would, there are similarities there. Now my question to you and to anybody, to everybody saying, I would say, this would be my question back. Why do you like LA Knight? Like, give me like some reasons, like why do you want to see him push so badly? Like, what about LA Knight makes you want to see him push so badly?
He's connecting. I mean, clearly he's something is striking with the audience, whether it's his look, whether it's his cadence, whether it's his catchphrase. It doesn't matter.
You can't put your finger on it. No, I'm just curious.
Why, but like he has it. It is that je ne sais quoi it factor.
Oh, I see. Okay. So the reason I asked that, by the way, is just because like I don't think if you're gonna boil it down to the it factor, I can't argue that because not everybody has that. And if you feel like they've got it, they've got, you know what I mean, there's a lot of really good performers that like are really good in the ring or good on the microphone or really, really well rounded, but they don't have that it factor that no one can really pinpoint exactly what that is. But I know what you mean. Like I know what you're talking about. The reason I asked that is because I think most fans would be kind of stumped by that question, and they'd be like, kind of like you were for a second, because you couldn't really put your finger on it. You're like, he's connecting. And that's what I like about it. He's connecting. He's getting a big reaction. But why? So my thing is like, it's just a really low hanging fruit, I think. I don't know if it's necessarily his look. I don't think it's necessarily his in-ring work. I think that it's really easy for the audience to blurt out his catchphrases. And when his music hits, it feels like a party, right? Like it's like his music hits and everybody can like stand up and be like, oh, we're all in on this together. Like that's kind of how it's like the opposite of Cody and AEW. Cody's music would hit in AEW and everyone would stand up and cheer and then look at each other and start booing. They'd be like, yeah, Cody. Oh, no, we're supposed to be, yeah, boo. Yeah, it's fun to boo this guy. Boo. You know, so like LA Knight comes out, everyone looks around and goes, why is everyone going crazy? Like non-fans are going, why is everyone going crazy? Oh my, yeah, okay. Like this, what's up with this guy? You know, and it's kind of contagious and infectious, which is good. But my thing is like, you take away you take away the LA Knight, like the catchphrases, you're kind of just left with, just nothing promos and not good ring. I shouldn't say not good ring work, just not anything that stands out to me in any way, shape, or form. Very average ring work. And that's just kind of, that makes sense. You know, that's kind of why I was asking is like, what about LA Knight is attracting somebody to him so much, all these fans to him so much? And I think to answer the question though, I think it's just a factor. I don't think it is the low hanging fruit catchphrases because it's easy to do, just like what for Steve Austin was. I get it. You know, there's yes. I get it. There have been very simple catchphrases in wrestling in history, but I think you nailed it on the head, dude. And I can't even argue that. If you feel like he's got it and like you just see the dude and you just like being a part of everybody going crazy, I can't argue that. You know, that's fine.
T5 to Great says LA Knight clowns folks and is entertaining. What else do you want until they put him into a feud? You want him to read 15 minutes of Shakespeare. People do like you mentioned you cut this promo on me in my black Taylor Swift t-shirt. Does LA Knight say the harshest, most cutting things when he clowns people on the mic? No. But he does just like clown people that people don't like. People are like, yeah, like he's going after this guy that I don't like. Even if it's very simple insults, people still just love that about him.
Yeah, which I think maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why, you know, like once again, like we're talking.
You need a soliloquy from Cody that he stayed up all night writing. While he helped his daughter with homework.
And listen, yeah, fair. But T5 to Great. No, obviously I don't want to go out there and read 15 minutes of Shakespeare. But I get.
Did you imagine to be, yeah, or not to be, yeah? That's the question, dummy.
Oh my god. But my thing is like, listen, I think it's a fair comment though to. You know, mainly, they have to put him in an actual. Well, here's the thing: he was in a feud. The feud that I remember was him versus Bray Wyatt. That feud sucked. But maybe they'll put him in a feud that isn't so goofy soon. That'd probably be good for him. And when people say he's out there, roasting people or whatever, it's just like you said, Jeremy. It's very. I guess if you're like a little kid or like you just love the WWE as an adult, which is fine. Maybe you just like that is entertaining to you, like because he's not roasting anybody. He's just pointing out the obvious. Like his roast of Logan Paul was literally him coming out and saying, "You are way more famous than all of us. You have way more social media followers than all of us, but you're standing in a wrestling ring." I mean, duh. And even I think Logan's response to that was just kind of like, "Yeah, like, what's your point?" I don't think he's roasting him. He take this bottle of Prime. Turn that sumbitch sideways and stick it straight up your candy ass. Yeah. But just is what it is. Like, I don't think he needs to go out there and read Shakespeare. I think it'd probably
what's in a name? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet as L.A. Knight. Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, he can read Shakespeare easily. Are you kidding me? This man would kill Shakespeare. This is what we need. That's a great suggestion.
To be completely honest, that this sounds insane, but he would probably be way better off reciting stuff that people already know and just blurting throughout it. That's actually not a bad idea. I know that sounds insane. That'd be way better than him saying nothing. If you went out and said stuff people already like were familiar with and they could like say it along with him, with all the yas in between, that's actually not a bad idea. I don't like it, but I think it's like actually kind of smart.
I think it worked brilliantly.
Maybe not specifically Shakespeare, but like any. Like,
no,
you know what
I think
mean?
Shakespeare worked great for him.
Yeah, So my whole thing is the substance thing. The substance issues. It's funny because when I say that he's so swole. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is the just give me more than just your name and like if you're gonna be known as the guy who goes out there and roast people, go out there and roast people. Like, let me actually hear it. And then I want to hear how he responds when people roast him back. That's the part we haven't really gotten to yet, is when some of these people start coming back at him and saying the stuff that I'm saying. And then, like, how do you respond to that? Do you just blurt out your name and again? Or do you have an actual response? You know, and that
so far we haven't seen anybody. I'd like to see him. You know who I'm very high on right now is Grayson Waller.
Sure.
Because
a lot of potential
he
there.
will. Yeah, he did very well against Cena. He did well against Edge. He's hyping himself up going against like The Rock and Austin and Undertaker on the mic and things like that. I think Grayson Waller is about infinity times better than what Austin Theory is offering right now. I think Grayson Waller can come back with some really good insults. And then I would like to see how LA Knight does when he's challenged like that. Because, yeah, LA Knight right now is kind of getting one-way promos. And I would like to see what happens when he is a little bit challenged on that regard and see what kind of material he has.
Yeah. Now I'm doing it. I think that, by the way, Grayson Waller, I remember him a little bit pre-WWE because he was, I think his name was like, it was something Wahlberg. He was like a Wahlberg brother because he looks a lot like those guys.
Mm.
I think his name, what was his name? It wasn't Grayson Wahlberg. It was like, anyway, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it was something Wahlberg on the Indies. Then I remember him coming in. I was covering him on 205 Live, or maybe it might have already been NXT Level Up. It might have already switched over. But I agree about Grayson Waller. And he has that factor of like, he's from Australia. Is that where he's from?
Yeah, he's Australia.
So he's got like that kind of just different accent, a little bit different. He's a really, handsome guy. He's a great looking guy. And he's still probably only like 20 or so, early 20s.
No. He's older than you would think with Grayson Waller. He's 33.
He's 33. Well, that still isn't too old. I'm 35 different, but like 33 isn't too old though. He's fine at 33. I thought he was in like his mid 20s. But
he's still young. He's still young in the realm of wrestling. But before wrestling, he did like reality television and things like that. So he's been around for a little while.
And to be fair, I honestly think that most wrestlers, like if you stay in it long enough and you're at like a certain level, I think most wrestlers are at their best at around like 35. As crazy as that is, like if you're, so like Grayson Waller, I think still hasn't even hit his prime yet at 33, which. I'm agreeing with you about Grayson Waller. I like him. I would have no problem with them really strongly pushing him because I think there's a ton of potential there, a ton of marketability, and he's good in the ring. I like what I've seen out of him in his matches. I think he's very athletic. But yeah, no, I'm with you. And maybe that's kind of the new wave, right? Maybe Theory loses the title and you got to set it to challengers of guys like. Grayson Waller and Eli Knight and Santos Escobar and, kind of a new crop of people going for, which is how it should be, honestly. I mean, but yeah. Yeah.
My WWE Spotlight, Jensen, is your guy, Cody Rhodes. It's official. Cody and Brock 3. It was actually like official last week, but people thought we were going to get a stipulation for this match. And as of now, we don't have a stipulation for this match. Do they ride this out without a stipulation? You're the Cody guy here. Can they go without a stipulation for the third and the final, the rubber match here?
Well, they definitely can because they're both fantastic. Like, I mean, Cody Rhodes is, just the purest of pure when it comes to professional wrestling. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you off air. I know of our boy Gunner just made another purchase, and I think he's going to probably reveal it today whenever it arrives. I've known him for a couple weeks. He made an incredible purchase that I don't want to spoil for people that follow the collection, but he's the man. So jealous. But listen, Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar, they can go out there and they can wrestle each other 1,000 times probably. I think it'd be good. But I know Brock's not always everyone's cup of tea, but for what he brings to the table, especially in feuds,
You're a hater if you don't like Brock Lesnar.
Well, I understand though that like there's some people that don't like that he goes out there and just like spams like signature and finishing moves and you know what I mean? Like I get he kind of phones it into a degree sometimes, stuff like that, or like he really only tries against people he really respects. And that's the good thing about Cody. He clearly respects the guy. He went out there and he lost to him the first time, got pinned by him in a wrestling move. And then, beat him the second time. And I'd imagine, I don't know for sure, but I'd imagine Brock has at least some level of respect for Dusty. And that's always going to help Cody in a lot of situations. Even people who might not even be the biggest Cody Rhodes fans are going to have a ton of respect for Dusty, and that's always going to be hand in hand to some degree. And I'm not saying that's like, and by the way, that worked against Cody for a really, really long time. It's not like this was always some giant advantage. For most of Cody's career with the WWE, being related to Dusty was like, well, probably what was keeping him not pushed because they liked messing with that family. But at this stage of the game and with who's kind of in charge of the company, well, actually, Vince is really in charge, but with Triple H, more in charge and some of the other people that are around Triple H are a lot of Dusty's people. And, I think that helps Cody. And I think Brock's probably one of those guys too, to a degree. Now that said, I think both guys have a lot of respect for one another. I remember back in high school when we'd be in like the wrestling and we call it the annex, where we do our practices and stuff. And, I remember because Brock was on TV then in 2000. I was in high school from 2002 to 2006, and Brock was at 2002. And I remember Cody because a lot of us watched wrestling on the wrestling team. I remember Cody then talking about watching Brock on TV. It's just crazy that 20 years later he's wrestling the guy 3 times and he's about to be this massive match in SummerSlam against the dude. It's awesome. That said, as far as the stipulation, I don't think it necessarily needs it because I think both guys can deliver no matter what the circumstances. But I'm kind of surprised there isn't one, and I almost expect them to add one because they have just this Monday, just this Raw, and then I would say because I think the rumors were bull rope match or something like that, which I'd be totally fine with. My initial idea months ago. And I don't think this is what they're going to go but I would want them to do the fight pit because Cody keeps talking about wanting to fight Brock Lesnar. He's not talking about wrestling him.
Ronda and Shayna got the fight pit.
Or are they doing that? I didn't even know that.
I mean, Shayna said on Raw, we're going to fight. And Ronda was like, I'm not a fight. I'm the fight. They said fight a lot and they agreed to a fight. So basically people are saying they're heavily implying this is not official. There's heavy implication that they're doing fight pit between Ronda and Shayna.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I know that the two of them were feuding, but I didn't realize that that's where that might be heading. Which is smart, obviously. I mean, if you're going to do it, I mean, both of them are
fight pit. I know you're high on fight pit for Cody and Brock. Never made sense for me. Why are they going to do? Why is Cody doing? I know he wants to
because he keeps telling them. Well, that's the whole thing. Is because he keeps using the word fight instead of wrestle. It's just fight. And I think that there would be something cool about the idea, in my opinion. Now, there's a lot of people that just wouldn't believe it. It'd be too unbelievable, and I understand that.
What about a boxing match? We got Cody and Brock the same night as Jake and Nate Diaz.
Ooh, I kind of like that. But the reason would be obviously Brock Lesnar, former UFC heavyweight champion, Cody goes in there and beats him in a fight. It just makes Cody, it puts Cody on a different kind of level in a certain way where it's Cody just beat Brock Lesnar in the fight pit. Who's going to beat Cody now? What better way to be I'm ready for Roman Reigns and I just beat Brock Lesnar in a UFC style fight. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I also completely understand Not everybody's as familiar with like Cody Rhodes, amateur wrestling background as I am. I do not take lightly what Brock Lesnar did in the UFC. I think what Brock Lesnar did in the UFC is absolutely incredible. It's probably a once in a lifetime thing. I don't think we'll ever probably see anyone in our lifetime that's like a established WWE superstar champion there, face of the company there, and then go into MMA and become the actual legitimate heavyweight champion in the UFC. Like that's so. I can get on Punk and all that stuff, right? But I know that's why you're laughing. But even someone like Lashley was really good at MMA. He's really good, but he wasn't UFC heavyweight champion level. But he could have been if he stuck with it and he fought the right people and he was in the UFC and not Bellator. I get all that, but like Brock actually beat Randy Couture for the title. Brock actually beat Shane Carwin to retain the title. Like Brock Lesnar actually got in there and got kicked in the diverticulitis by Alistair Overeem. You know what I mean? He went in there and fought Cain Velasquez at Cain's prime. Like Brock Lesnar is a badass dude. You got to give that dude respect, whether you like him as a wrestler or not, or do you think he's, too hot and cold. He comes in and out too much of the company and he holds people down. He has quick matches or whatever. You gotta that's a big reason why Vince gives him everything. Is like Vince sees what I'm talking about right now. It's like what a once in a lifetime human.
You becoming a Vince McMahon visionary ain't good for your brand, Stephen Jensen.
Well, I'm not necessarily a Vince McMahon visionary. I'm just realistic in knowing that he's the one calling the shots. He always has been, and he's going to continue to be. They just sold he technically, the way that this is all set up now with the sale, he's more in charge now than he ever was before. So like that's why I keep saying if he was out of the picture, we were talking about Triple H actually being in charge of the show, I would say a lot of different stuff. But I'm not going to live in a fantasy world that like Vince isn't the final say. You can see all this, anything you see on the show, it's very clear that Vince McMahon is booking everything again, or at least the final say on everything. So anyway, that's where I'm at with all that. I think what would probably make the most sense though, given Cody, the only thing I don't like about the Bull Rope match, the only thing is the built-in excuse potentially that's kind of like Cody's or Dusty's match. Like he has an advantage in that to some degree. I feel like going into it, that could almost be used as an excuse. It almost isn't a level playing field. Because my assumption is Cody's going to win. I could be wrong, obviously, about that. I was very wrong at WrestleMania, but I think that my thing is I'm going into it assuming that Cody's winning. So I wanted to see him with a bunch of adversity, being a fight pit. People aren't expecting to beat Brock Lesnar in a UFC style fight, but he actually does. If he goes into a bull rope match, I think people are looking at that being like, yeah, that's his match. I think he's got this. I think there's a little less doubt that he's going to win. So maybe that's why they are making it, or we don't know. They may change it by the actual match. But if things stay the same as is right now, and it's just a one-on-one match again, that isn't a bad idea from the sense of like it seems like a level playing field, and you really on paper you really don't know who would win because there's really no advantage to either guy.
I think fight pit's out of the question, especially with Ronda and Shayna.
No, after you saying that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to do two of those on the SummerSlam. Sure.
I think if you were going to do bull rope or a strap match, anything like that, probably better to go ahead and set that up more than a week out.
Agreed.
I would have preferred that at least this week, which, the promo did not lend itself to do it this week. I would set something like that more than a week out. So maybe they still go that direction, but I think that's a missed opportunity for not doing it at least this past week and doing it the week of. Anything else? I mean, no DQ, but the main event's going to be no DQ between Roman and Jay. So Louis saying like street fight. We already got like basically a no DQ street fight type match in the main event. We don't need two of those on the show. So I think at this point, it's probably not going to have a stipulation. I think it probably should have had a stipulation though, given the attacks and the overall rivalry and Cody wanting to settle things and the way he wants to settle them. I think it probably should have had a stipulation, mainly because Cody probably needs to bleed. I think this is a match where Cody actually needs to get some blood. I know Brock bled in the Backlash match, I believe. And like that was good. I'm all for color in these matches. I think when you have kind of these blood type feuds, it's okay to have blood in these matches. And that's a Cody thing anyway. The man just likes to bleed a lot. Oh yeah, I probably would have done some type of stipulation, but I'd also just I see the argument for a normal match and Brock just beating him up and making him bleed with his bare hands type of thing.
Randy Orton style with the.
Yeah, I don't know if they want to revisit that.
Oh no, I hope they don't either. That was terrifying.
That's a visual that, like, I know people were very upset, and Chris Jericho was literally trying to fight Brock Lesnar.
Dude, big balls on Jericho for getting in his face about that too. Like, I know that it was all worked and he didn't know that ahead of time, but like, you got to give Chris Jericho credit for like standing up to him like that, thinking he was doing the right thing.
That's a visual and just like a scene that is like embedded in my mind of Brock like cutting open Randy in that way. And Andy leaves a super chat, says, Steven, hasn't our boy been wrestling's best promo in 2023? Delivery's perfect and more range than anyone. P.S. Bad feeling Wyatt cost him at SummerSlam.
Ooh, we're talking about Cody. Oh, I thought you were talking about LA Knight for a second. Okay, so yes.
He said our boy. I mean, I guess it could be sarcastic.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Thank you. I agree. That's thank you for the super chat. And thank you for contributing to the show. I agree. Yeah, I think he's cutting great promos. I really enjoy Cody's promos. And sorry, I got to see the rest of that rest of the chat here. I felt about Bray Wyatt, dude.
This has been a theory. I don't know how like much you've been paying attention. And who else said it? Tyler for Film says, I don't know how to feel about it, but I get a feeling Bray Wyatt will return after this match and target Cody. This has been a theory among the online fan base that Cody will win, beat Brock and everything, and then the lights go out. And then whether it is the Uncle Howdy, just whatever personality Bray Wyatt is going to show up with, the Fiend, the true American nightmare, the international nightmare, Bray Wyatt, whatever he wants to call himself, it's going to be Bray, and he's going to go after Cody, and Cody's got to do his great gimmick selling and then whatnot that he has to do.
I really hope that doesn't happen, but trust me, listen, I'm a Cody historian. I remember who Husky Harris's NXT Pro was. It was the one and only Cody Rhodes. There's a lot of history there that they can harken back to. Uncle Howdy and Bray can do a whole thing about, you made fun of me when I was Husky, and now look at me. Look at me, man. I hate that idea. I absolutely hate it. I'm not a Bray Wyatt guy. I love the Bray Wyatt, the original like Waylon Mercy style backwoods cult leader Hawaiian t-shirt Bray Wyatt. Like, I thought that was a great gimmick, and he had really good matches against guys, especially like Dan O'Brien. And they had that Royal Rumble match, which was like fantastic. The stuff with the Shield and the Wyatt family, like I was a big Bray fan, but ever since they turned him into kind of like the Undertaker style, when he went into the feud with Undertaker for WrestleMania and lost, and I was there live when he lost to Cena at WrestleMania 30, and I thought he should have beat Cena that night, and I thought that was a miss. I was a Bray fan, but I am not anymore. I think it is ultra cringe. The last time we saw anything about him, right, was the Muscle Man dance, whenever Bobby Lashley was like,
stuff.
I don't play with kids. Well, you're playing with kids. I don't play kids games. Sorry, not play with kids. I don't play kids games. I despise the idea of Bray Wyatt not only returning, but like I should say returning. I don't have a problem with the man having a job, and I don't necessarily have a problem with the man himself. I despise the gimmick. I think the whole Fiend and Uncle Howdy and the puppets come to life and all this stuff is so goofy. I can't, especially after that Mountain Dew match. I'm just like, the most respect I've ever had for LA Knight was after that match on SmackDown or whatever it was, like the next week, she was doing a backstage interview with somebody, and the interviewer gave him the microphone and was like, Someone should. I hope someone can find this because maybe I'm remembering it wrong. But if someone can send me a clip of this, I'd really appreciate it. But if I remember correctly, she was like, "So how do you feel about coming off of that loss to Bray Wyatt in the Pitch Black match?" And he took the microphone and was like, "Yeah, we're gonna forget about that and move on." Yeah, and just move. And I was like, "Okay, that's smart. Do not harp on this. Just move on. Let's pretend like none of this happened." But yeah, I hate the idea of Bray Wyatt coming back and feuding with Cody because that means Cody would have to have matches with him, and that just, if anything, could derail the trajectory of Cody. Because I'd imagine he'd win the feud. I think the plan still is to do him and Roman at WrestleMania. So it's a matter of killing time and getting there in a way that makes sense. The Brock Lesnar stuff makes sense because that's beating. This is no offense to Seth Rollins and the title he holds, but beating Brock Lesnar right now means more than winning the World Heavyweight title on Raw. It just is. It means more. It's your heat to get towards Roman, which is the actual title that matters. So I think that beating Brock in this trilogy, that's a great step in that direction to getting to Roman. But we'd be taking a lot of steps back if Cody's got to sit there and pretend to be afraid of puppets and magic and muscle man dances and Uncle Howdy. Who's Uncle Howdy? That's Uncle Howdy's little laugh that he does. And then he runs around like it is in Bo Dallas. Like it might not be Bo Dallas.
Scared me.
Oh well, I'm doing the job. I mean, he runs around giggling, and it's clearly Bo Dallas. It's his voice, and that was the big payoff we talked about for so long too. Wait till the Bo Dallas reveal. Oh, that's gonna be. Listen, you know what? You want me to 180? Put Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt back on television. You'll turn someone into an LA Knight fan pretty fast because I'm gonna be sitting here going, no, push LA Knight. Never mind, push LA Knight. Get Bray Wyatt away from me. Push LA Knight.
We got a lot of good stuff in the chat, by the way. Is this a theory or has there been reporting around why? I haven't seen really any reporting. I've seen a lot of theory that Bray is the one to come out after Cody. I've not seen like a legit report. Maybe I missed something, but I've not seen any of that. People in the chat, though. Cody Island meets the Funhouse. That sounds bad. I'll pass. I disagree.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Building to a WrestleMania exorcism to free the ghost of Dusty. Yes,
Cody's already had an exorcism. They had to get the WWE out of him years ago on BTE.
Yeah, well,
and it's back in now. But that was some of the funniest stuff ever. Was him being the WWE show. Sorry,
I've been craving a sponsored match. Oh, Cody selling these sponsors too. Cody would love to do a sponsored match. Would love it. 15-minute promo of them both saying nothing. Yeah, that sounds about right. Those two.
You know what, man? I was standing around, man, thinking about stuff, and I'm thinking about wrestling, man, and I got Uncle Howdy, man, and my puppets. What you gonna do, Cody? Run.
I hope. One, because Bray Wyatt just pops me for all the wrong reasons. It would be great content if we get a Cody and Bray feud. Amazing content for this show. They
would try really, really hard to make it work. I think Cody and Bray probably have a lot of love for one another. They've probably known each other for a really long time. I mean, like, since they're probably kids with their families both being around. So, like, I'd imagine they probably want to work together. If
Cody wants to overcome adversity, there's nothing more adversity than doing an extended program than Bray Wyatt.
He needs to go out there and just, I don't want to get demonetized. He needs to end the Funhouse. Like, he needs to take out every one of those characters one by one. Crossroads to Mercy the Buzzard. Crossroads to Huskus the Pig. Just step on Ramblin' Rabbit in front of everybody. Just stomp him out. Like, get rid of this goofy ass. It's just anyway. I'm also 35. If I was 10, Bray Wyatt might be like the most entertaining thing I've ever seen in my life. So that's other. I have to be realistic about this. There are probably kids who love, and I know he has his fans. There's a lot of adult Bray Wyatt fans that get really, really, really offended. I don't know if there are fans out there, like LA Knight fans are getting pretty they're getting pretty vocal about like having his back, of course, but like I don't know if there's a fan base that like like types harder and breathes heavier into their keyboard than Bray Wyatt fans when they get mad. Like they get so angry when you make fun of Bray Wyatt or say you're not into Bray Wyatt. Anyways, we should probably move on to like other topics. I got about a half hour.
We do have to hit some other stuff here. All
right. Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. It was a great show, and I think it's been a run of great shows.
AEW last night. Some stuff from last night, but the big thing coming this weekend. MJF, Adam Cole challenging FTR for the AEW Tag Team Championships. They both teams cut promos last night. I thought both teams had really good promos, some good stuff, specifically from MJF, and then Dax and his response that he may not seen MJF's promo first before they cut that one. The big topic on this though, Jensen, is MJF and Adam Cole very, very hot right now. And I know MJF is the world champion. Not everybody likes that he's doing this comedy stuff, but can't deny how hot this act is right now. Do you continue with this act, or do you do what people assume they will do, and they lose on Saturday? They do the turn, they set up the match, whether it be for All Out or All In.
Yeah. So first off, I thought it was funny you just pointed out Dax pretending to not have seen the promo and calling out bullet point by bullet point exactly what MJF said in his promo about him. That was kind of funny.
Yeah. He Eminem'd them. He's like, "Oh, I don't need to see the promo. I know exactly what he's gonna say." Like, yeah, probably saw the promo.
Absolutely, 100% knew what he was gonna say. But it's okay. That's fine. I respect FTR. I respect everybody involved in this. They're all great. I think that Adam Cole's gonna turn on MJF. I don't know how long they'll wait to do it, but that's where I'm leaning more and more towards now. Is like I think Adam Cole will turn, but I talked about this with Doug on Tuesday, and he's the one who actually brought up kind of the scenario, and I'm bought in on it. That I would do Adam Cole turning on MJF, but it isn't him turning heel. It's him getting out in front of it and being like, "You thought that I was that stupid this whole time, Max? Like I know who you are. Roddy knows who you are. We played you, dude. Like you got in, but MJF is going to get really, really upset about it because he actually thought that he had a friend in Adam Cole for once. Like which is a different layer of MJF than what we normally get. I think MJF is going to be the one in this scenario that actually feels like he has a real best friend in Adam Cole. Adam Cole is going to break his heart, and it's going to lead MJF to be even more diabolical, even more like a Joker arc, because now it's like he can't even trust anybody. You got one guy who he became friends with who stabbed him in the back, and everyone continues to cheer Adam Cole because of stabbing him in the back. I think the Roddy thing is a red herring, like Roderick Strong being so concerned about everything. I think that it's pretty clear that. But anyway, I shouldn't say pretty clear, because MJF could always just turn, and that would make perfect sense based on his character. But I feel like that's a little too predictable with how everything is. So I would say, I don't know when they do it, but it'll probably be not long after they lose this eliminator. Because also last night, it needs to be mentioned that Adam Cole or MJF straight up told Adam Cole yesterday, "Hey, win, lose, or draw, I'm giving you another shot at this title." And so now Adam Cole has what he wants. Like he has the title shot, whether he needs to stay around MJF anymore or not. So I think the seeds have been planted now to where probably not long after they lose, because I don't think they're going to beat FTR. So like if they lose that match, either during the match, after the match, maybe within a few weeks, probably pretty fast though. I think Adam Cole will be the one to turn on MJF, and then that'll be, and I think MJF will probably retain over Adam Cole whenever they eventually have their match. But that's where I'm at with everything with them. And I like it, by the way. I think they're going to have a great tag team match. I love all four of the performers involved in this.
Jilted lover, Roderick Strong, who can't understand why his boyfriend, Adam Cole, is now spending time with his best friend. It's like, why aren't you spending time with me? We used to have something. And then he just doesn't get it. He's jealous. Roderick Strong seems kind of boring to hang out with. I'd be hanging out with MJF over Roderick Strong too. Maybe have some excitement in your life, Roddy. You go around sulking everywhere with your neck brace and stuff. MJF's taking him out to nice places.
Well, and part of me too, it comes across like when Adam Cole and when Adam Cole and Roddy Strong are together, like alone together, it almost feels to me where Adam Cole is looking him in the eyes and being like, "Don't blow my cover, dude. Like, stop blowing my cover. Like, stay out of this. I know what I'm doing." He's not saying that, but like that's kind of what the vibe I'm getting from it is like, dude, stop getting in the way. Stop getting in the way. I don't actually like this guy, but I can't say that in front of people. Like, come on, man. And also, massive shout out to MJF. I don't know if you caught the one of his lines yesterday when him and Roddy were face to face. He yelled out and said that he was a generic call, a creator wrestler.
Yeah, creator wrestler.
Yeah. I thought that's a good line. That's always a good line.
I mean, he hit him with the like, "Oh, hey, generic white dude number 2," a few weeks ago, whatever he called him.
Yeah.
I mean, look, bless Roddy Strong, one of an absolute fantastic wrestler.
He's so great in the ring that doesn't matter, and that's why you can make those jokes without it bothering me. Because Roderick Strong, it doesn't matter. The looks of Roderick Strong is not the draw of Roderick Strong. Roderick Strong, when the bell rings in between the ropes, and he is fantastic in the ring. So like, I don't care. I don't care how generic he looks personally. Bryan Danielson looks pretty generic in like the grand scheme of things, or at least did. He kind of has more of a look to him now, but even when he was getting over, like on the indies, he was just he was like a small guy with a shaved head, just very generic looking guy. Didn't matter because he kicked ass. That's awesome.
I think MJF and Cole should win the tag titles on Saturday.
Really? I don't hate that idea though. By the way, I don't hate it.
The problem with this is, you're going to All In, right? I think All Out is where the title match between MJF and Cole is probably going to happen, maybe. But then that takes the world title off of All In. I understand, like, hey, biggest show of the year, maybe you should have a world title match. I mean, biggest show of the year, I have no idea what they're booking for this show yet. Like, we're a month away from All In. I'm like, maybe this match is happening, but there doesn't seem to be anything super concrete on this show just yet. Like, I could see a CM Punk Ricky Starks, but also I could not see CM Punk Ricky Starks on this. Anyway, I understand you don't have the world title on All In, and maybe people would be upset about that. I would do the tag team title match at All In, not a rematch. I would do a triple threat type of thing, whether it be FTR and Young Bucks in there potentially, and then maybe that repairs a little bit of a relationship there, and we get these sides working with each other, and that way Cole and MJF don't have to take a fall on this, because it's hard for me to see Cole or MJF taking a fall at All In and be like, "Hey, world title match at All Out." Like, I just saw you lose a week ago. It's tough for me to buy in to that. Do a triple threat match. FTR Young Bucks win. Cole and MJF doesn't take the loss, and then you kind of do the turn, whichever way you want to go with it. After that match, it sets up for All Out. So you kind of have and it's more than a 2-week build. Obviously, this Cole and MJF story has been going on for months now. But then that's your setup and your payoff for in a 2-week or in a 1-week period. That's my suggestion. I understand why maybe it doesn't work for a lot of people. I fully expect FTR to win on Saturday, and whoever's turning, whichever way they're going on Saturday, to happen on Saturday, whichever way they're going to happen on Saturday. That's my expectation.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it'll happen on Saturday as well.
The other AEW spotlight is Jerry Lynn in 2023. Jack Perry is the FTW champion. He buried ECW and Taz, and then out came Jerry Lynn, who said, "You want to fight somebody? I'm right here." And next week they will have a face-to-face. It is not an official match.
Right.
They will have a face-to-face. Jerry Lynn in 2023. Stephen Jensen.
Pretty dope. Okay. Like, I get that some people might not be into this, but Jerry Lynn was the man. And he, a lot of your favorite wrestlers, if you were to ask them, favorite wrestlers or like their own personal favorite wrestlers or wrestlers that or people that like really help them nowadays as like agents or like just always giving good advice and feedback and stuff. Jerry Lynn's a name that almost always comes up. His run in ECW is absolutely legendary. His run in TNA is legendary as well. People kind of forget about like his early TNA days run and stuff too, with X Division and all that, the tag team division, him and AJ and everything. Like, that was really, really great stuff. So I popped big, honestly. Like, I saw, I like the idea of the story of the feud here too. I like Jack Perry. I'm getting used to calling him that again. I really like his heel turn right now. He's leaning into it really well. I don't like the music, but that's the point. Like, I hate that music, as a matter of fact, as entrance music, but that's like literally the point. And if the story is going to be, hey, I'm the FTW champion, I don't respect this title, and to have like ECW originals kind of come after him. I also noticed that Jack Perry, when he came out to the ring, he blew a kiss to Taz on his way out too. And I was like, that was a good touch. Yeah. So, cause I mean, this thing might also eventually end with, Taz putting Jack in the Taz mission, or something, during this, and helping Hook, at some point or something. So I think there's a lot of kind of cool stuff they can do with this. I don't love the idea of like an EV 8.0 reunion or anything like that. Like reuniting ECW for like the 1,000th time, or anything like that. But considering the FTW title is involved with this, and I'll be honest, outside of ECW, I haven't really cared about that title. Like, it's nothing against, Cage Nobody or Starks. Right. But I mean, it's a non-recognized title by the company. It looks kind of cool, and it gives me some nostalgia feels, because, I remember when that title was active in the original ECW, but like, I like that Jack won the title, and he's being real about it and being like, when I said I wanted to become a world champion, this isn't what I was talking about. And for Jerry Lynn to come out and be like, I'm going to defend the honor of ECW is cool for a couple reasons. One, because it makes sense because of that belt. And two, I definitely wasn't expecting Jerry Lynn to have anything even resembling a confrontation or a match or anything like that, a fight, whatever they're going to call it, in 2023. That was not on my bingo card, but I like it. And I'm curious now to see if more ECW originals get involved in this, because I'd imagine they probably will. They'll probably reach out to some other talents that like can still go at least, somewhat decently in the ring, probably, and have Jungle Boy beat like a handful of these guys. But I'm not saying it's the best idea. I'm just saying that seems like what they're going to do. Unless they're going to do just this one really random Jerry Lynn thing.
Jerry Lynn hasn't wrestled in like 10 years, by the way.
I know, but I mean, normally I'd be worried about it, but like, he was really, really good. Like, I feel like if he feels like he can do it, he can.
10 years? I mean, maybe he can,
Or CM Punk was out of the ring for 7 or whatever. I mean, I guess he was training.
Yeah, at least CM Punk was doing some type of training. No offense to Jerry Lynn. Like,
Jerry Lynn looks like he's in shape. Yeah, dude, I don't know, man. For all we know, he's in the ring. For all we know, he's in the ring all the time with these people while he's coaching them and stuff. We don't know. He might still be good to go.
I don't know the last time Jerry Lynn. I mean, I don't know if he would take a bump or what kind of bump he would take. If Jerry Lynn actually wrestles, I don't think he will, by the way.
Right.
My expectations, and I love Jerry Lynn as a kid. Like, he was one of the most underrated guys. I know.
WWF lightweight champion, baby.
Mr. JL.
Yes.
We share initials. Yeah. My expectations are not high for a Jerry Lynn match in 2023. They're not.
Mine aren't either, but I'm optimistic about it, specifically because of who we're talking about. If this was like most people that have been out of the game for this long that weren't that good to begin with, I'd be very like, there were plenty of ECW originals that you could say this about, and I'd be like, yeah, keep them away from some of them we see in Impact often. And I'm like, probably shouldn't be doing this anymore. Probably. But it's not my decision to make.
Yeah, but the difference in that is the people in Impact are kind of guys who have a certain style, right? Jerry Lynn, and that style can,
right?
You don't need to do a whole lot.
I know what you mean. There's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of shortcuts you can take in those kind of
Jerry
matches,
Lynn.
Sure.
Jerry Lynn was a guy known for more of his speed and technical ability,
yes.
And that's something that won't look as clean in 2023 as you get older and just don't move as well. Agreed. Whereas Tommy Dreamer can hit people in the head with a kendo stick all day long until he's 80 And it's like, oh yeah, this is just like the Tommy Dreamer I remember from 2001. There's not a whole lot of difference there. Jerry Lynn, you will notice a difference.
I agree. And by the way, I'm with you where I think it'll most likely be like more of a face-to-face, and Lynn will probably bump around a little bit, but I don't think we're going to get like a full on, at least not yet. I remember back in the day, there was people who thought like the movie The Wrestler was like based on Jerry Lynn.
Yeah, Jerry Lynn got the ROH world title off of that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But like, that's kind of crazy to think now is like, imagine if he had a match now, the comparisons you'd make to that would be like, damn, he actually kind of is exactly what we're, but he's not like down and out. The difference with Jerry Lynn is, for people who may not know, like he's backstage. I mean, obviously he was wearing AEW stuff when he came out last night, but he's a backstage guy for AEW. Like he's still very much involved with a lot of stuff. So, I have faith that they know what they're doing with this, but but the reason I wanted to be my spotlight today on the show is because it was completely unexpected. And when I was like, wait a second, they're going to do something between Jerry Lynn and Jungle Boy. Like, that's interesting at the very least. I don't know if it's going to be the best idea or not, but I like the thought process of FTW title, original ECW wrestlers defending the honor of the original ECW, but it has to be the right people, and they can't drag Jack down because of it. That's my biggest fear, would be him having to get in the ring with like originals. Imagine if they had him go out there and it was like him versus the Sandman, and the Sandman like can't move, and it's like that's a problem.
How many ECW? I think RVD is still active enough, but like how many guys from ECW are active to?
There's not
actually
many.
They're all, I mean, ECW was 20 years ago, more than that, 25 years ago. And so all of these guys who are already maybe they were in their early 20s, they're all 50 at this point. And like Too Cold Scorpio still goes. If they bring in Too Cold Scorpio now, all right,
that's a different thing. He can still wrestle. He's still out there hitting tumbleweeds and stuff. Like No, I'm with you, but no, you're right. I mean, then there's even guys like Johnny Swinger, technically, that like are were ECW originals that like are wrestling fairly often in like Impact and stuff, but it's more of a comedy thing or whatnot. I get what you're saying, but at the same time, like that's a concern as well, as like both of us being people who grew up during the original ECW and having seen reunion after reunion after reunion after reunion. At this point, like even Paul Heyman, when you ask him about ECW, usually just like, yeah, I don't really want to talk about it. Like, that's like, it's just so long ago. Like, it was awesome for what it was. Like, can we just kind of move on? Like, I don't really, So on one hand, it's cool, like the homage or whatever to ECW with all this. On the other hand, it's like, why are we still referencing ECW? It's kind of like, there was a moment in time that you could never take away from any of us, but like, it's been over for 20 years.
It's Dynamite 200 next week. I was seeing if they could tie in this Jack Perry stuff to kind of that in ECW and everything. Like, how could you tie all of this together? And there's really no one that's like tied to ECW in like the first episode of Dynamite is what I was trying to look back on. I don't know.
Well, they are kind of tying that with like Jericho and like Guevara being in like that match next week. That was the original episode of Dynamite. The Inner Circle formed and stuff, and like so there is some of that. I see what you're saying though.
Yeah, but I was looking for this specific segment, and I don't know. There's no real ECW first episode of Dynamite tie-in.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see where it goes. I'm not expecting a Jerry Lynn match. I'm not expecting that at all. If they can get RVD, great. Now I've talked myself into Too Cold Scorpio. Give me a Too Cold.
I love that idea. Give us Scorpio versus Jack. Love that.
Yeah, he's still going. All right, we got to speed run these last few topics here.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
KENTA and Will Ospreay from Night 5 of the New Japan G1 Climax 33. People wanted the old KENTA, and Will Ospreay was certainly a guy who kind of brought out the old KENTA here. KENTA showed a lot of fire early on with the immediate elbows, had some sting on his kicks. Look, Will Ospreay he might be the best wrestler in the world right now. Like, I say what you want about him. I understand why he's not for everybody. He makes everyone he's in the ring with up their game. And there's a reason why he's spoken so highly of by his peers and everything. KENTA, there's a lot of romance when it comes on with KENTA, especially when we were talking about the CM Punk stuff leading up to Forbidden Door. Everybody wanted that, again, for kind of nostalgia and romance purposes. But KENTA's been what he's been the past few years. A lot of stuff has just kind of caught up with him. This looked more like a vintage KENTA performance, and a chunk of that was just how good Will Ospreay is at making everything look like it murders him.
Yeah, the match absolutely rules. I would highly recommend checking it out. There's points during that match where they're basically like, I know pro wrestling is like a simulated fight to begin with, but like KENTA's like throwing fisted just punches like to the face, to the body. Like, I mean, Ospreay, and they're slapping the hell out of each other. Like, that was a stiff match, and like you said, that felt like the old KENTA. It was really, really good stuff. There's a lot of good false finishes. I believe ultimately the finisher, like, he hit him with a hidden blade in a Stormbreaker to finally put him away. But they did everything in this thing. And if you want to kind of up KENTA's, I don't know, credibility is not the right word, but like his perception again, kind of a bit, especially because they couldn't make the KENTA and Punk thing happen, which is so strange. I think that this was honestly, I don't catch a whole lot of New Japan anymore. But I did watch this whole match before, because I knew we were going to talk about it. And I was incredibly impressed. Like, I've been saying for a minute that Will Ospreay is one of the best in the world. I won't argue that at all. If someone wants to say he's the best wrestler, I'm not going to argue it. I completely understand that argument 100%. And this is exactly what you want out of KENTA. Like, I want more of this out of KENTA going forward. So yeah. And then Ospreay beat Okada this morning.
Yeah.
So like Ospreay's absolutely killing it right now. He's another guy that's crazy. He hasn't hit his prime yet either, probably, which is insane. So
maybe he hasn't hit his prime.
He's still getting better. He's still adding moves. He's still putting on size. He's still becoming more athletic somehow and being better in ring psychology, and he's getting better still.
He's certainly adapting his style as well. Like he said it himself, like as he adds size, he just can't do some of the acrobatics that he used to do. And so that has, I think, made him a more well-rounded wrestler, because he can't just still super, super athletic, but he can't fully rely on that athleticism. Kenny Omega went through that as well. Is like, these guys will rely so much on athleticism to get them by. And then it's when that sort of ticks down, you got to figure out other things that work. And both guys figured it out a lot quicker than a lot of guys do. I mean, these two are at like top 1% when it comes to just understanding wrestling. But a lot of guys now, especially nowadays on the indies, where it seems like everybody's athletic and everybody can do everything, they're going to have to figure this out. And some will pick it up quicker than others. And Will Ospreay, again, he's somebody who just picked it up really quick.
He's incredible.
Your other spotlight, Jensen, is East West Express coming to New Japan. They're going to be part of the sort of New Japan. It's a conglomerate event, but it's the All-Star Junior Festival. They're going to face Mao and El Desperado at the event, which takes place on August 19th.
Yes, and that can kind of be parlayed into the indie spotlight if you want to hit that bumper real quick, because that'll kind of tie us together.
Sure.
I want to give a big motherfucking shout out.
So East West, of course, very well known through GCW. So I'll get into GCW talk right after this. But East West, GCW Tag Team Champions. It's cool. They're going to be wrestling Desperado and Mao. Mao, by the way, is making some really big waves right now. The scene. He's a guy I've been a fan of for a minute, but like, he's really putting it all together right now. He had a really, really good match with Speedball recently. And that's not saying much, because Speedball has matches with everybody. But Mao and Speedball, and they're a tag team as well, the two of them. So it's cool with like their history. But like, it's cool to see Nick Wayne and all the love he's getting and being a part of AEW and all this. But along the way, I was also saying, like, I really hope that Jordan Oliver doesn't get like left behind or kind of become like an afterthought in any way. And it seems like that's not going to be the case at all, because they're going to continue to team. They're going to get that New Japan show, that joint show, whatever you want to call it, but it is New Japan branded. And then, hopefully Jordan and East West can stay a thing. I'd love to see Jordan on AEW with Nick. I've said that before. I think them as a tag team on AEW television would be huge for both guys. for like their long-term progress and everything. They could do a lot together in the short term. But yeah, shout out to East West. They're one of my favorite tag teams. They're two of my favorite guys in all of wrestling. And it's cool because I know it's a bucket list thing. I know Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver are both saying like it's super cool we're going to do this for New Japan. So, and then I'll kind of parlay that into mentioning with Japan, we have GCW announced they're going to be doing a Korakuen Hall show in October, which is massive. And they were just in Japan this past week, or I guess, yeah, well, like
2 weeks ago.
It was like, yeah, it's technically it was last week, like during the week they had those, because like the time difference in Japan. They had the new Face of War and Planet Death were the two shows. I did full reviews over on Fightful Select during the Weekender. So if you want to know like match by match and my full thoughts on like the whole show or both shows and everything, I'd recommend checking out the Weekender to get some like deep dives in that. But I wanted to give that a shout out too. Massive shout out to GCW. Korakuen Hall is a very, very big deal. And just becoming this popular in Japan is a very big deal. Like in that market, it's super cool that they go to these shows and like the fan base, like Jimmy Lloyd, I think is the first person who came out for the new Face of War. And like the fans are like doing this, Jimmy effing Lloyd. You know what I mean? It's like a completely different country. And they know these guys. They know these girls. They know these performers. Like, I think that's just so cool to me. The way that pro wrestling can just translate or just the way that anyone from anywhere can see it and love it. And, I think it's so cool how well GCW is doing in Japan. So yeah, that was kind of my whole spotlight in a bundle there with like East West and GCW. And actually in the interview you're all about to hear, we bring it up where you'll be hearing an interview from one called Manders, who is a big part of GCW. And I bring up Korakuen Hall to him. Hopefully he gets booked for the show. We'll get that during the interview. But yeah, so I know I've got to bounce here in a second, but is there anything you'd like to add for GCW in Japan?
GCW in Japan, I think Emil tweeted it of like, you just don't book Korakuen. They just don't like,
right.
You can't just walk up there and be like, hey, is the venue open on this day? Yeah, sure. Like it takes a lot to be able to run that and to be able to, feel you're going to run that successfully as well. Like you got to run that and it's going to cost. You got to feel confident that you're going to at least break even on that. And GCW clearly feels confident that it is a worthwhile business venture for them. So it's good on GCW. I expect we'll see plenty of the Japanese talent and everything on that show, as we've seen on the majority of really all the GCW and Japan shows. And then when it comes to East West, a little surprised it's not Mao and Speedball as the right. team. It's El Desperado. I assume they have other plans. Speedball's on the show. I assume they just have other plans for him on the show, but I was suspecting it would be Mao and Speedball as the tag team against East West. But it is good that Jordan Oliver is part of this. He's somebody we talked to him with Manders as well, like just really well respected among his peers on the independent scene. And Nick Wayne's getting a lot of shine right now in AEW, and Jordan Oliver is hopefully he continues to rise alongside that with Nick Wayne. I know you got to go, Jensen, so I'll let you get all the plugs in here.
Appreciate it. Yeah. So you can follow me on Twitter at Fight Talk. Well, on X at Fight Talk _ FIGHTTALK _. Please listen to the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. So subscribe over to FightfulSelect.com. That drops every Sunday. And I mainly talk the world of independent professional wrestling over there. And you can check out myself and Doug do a show called Live Rounds on the RVD Tito for Life YouTube channel on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. We talk for about 2 hours, usually about 2 to 2.5 hours about wrestling and football and action figures and movies. We talk a little bit about everything. So I think y'all would enjoy that if you enjoy this. Yeah, and that's that. I hope y'all enjoy the interview with Manders. I thought it was really good. He gave us a lot of time. We get a lot of good info. Great conversation. Great dude. And yeah, I'm going to go clock in for the shoot job. Good seeing everyone in the chat today. Good seeing you, Jeremy. And the next time, I think the next time y'all will see or hear from me will probably be on Sunday for the Weekender. So keep a lookout for that. And I hope everybody has a great day.
The wife says it's still Twitter, by the way. It's not X.
It's X on the computer, but it's Twitter on my phone. It's very weird. Very weird. Anyways.
Thank you as always, Jensen. Enjoy the rest of your day, buddy. All right, everyone. Let's get into our interview, our creator spotlight with one called Manders. He won SCI, big tournament in the Southeast. The other week, he is part of GCW. He's part of MLW. He wrestles all around the independent scene. He's part of the Second Gear crew with Mance Warner, Matthew Justice, Effie and Alley Catch are kind of part of that as well. A lot of great stories from Manders. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It is a long interview, I believe. Last week we had Jeremy Padua, which was our longest interview at like just over an hour. That was like an hour and 10. And then we topped it this week with one called Manders. So it is a long interview. I promise the end is worth it. He gives a great story. I'll spoil it a little bit. I'll set it up a little bit. Manders was at WrestleMania the past 2 years, hanging out with a top tier football player who also got involved in a WrestleMania match this year. That is what I'll say on that. A lot of fun stories with Eddie Kingston, stories with Jon Moxley, get stories just traveling around like the independent scene and stuff. So Manders, he's been around for a little bit, but he's hung out with a lot of people and just had a lot of stories to share. So fun interview. So yeah, let's get into it. Creator Spotlight with one called Manders.
Welcome to the Creator Spotlight, the interview portion of the Spotlight here on Fightful. I, as always, am Stephen Jensen, joined by Jeremy Lambert. And today, our guest is the 2023 Scenic City Invitational winner. He is the Corn Belt Cowboy. He is a member of the Second Gear crew. He is the one called Manders. Thank you for joining the show today. How you doing?
Good. What's up, y'all? How are you guys?
Doing great.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it, especially coming off the SCI victory. I know Jensen's very excited. Myself. Talk about that.
That was crazy, man. Like coming in, like it's not like it's like the first time I've ever been to SCI, and like I've 2019 I won the Action Future Showcase, and that was kind of like my coming out party in a way. And then you do the circuit and stuff, and how pro wrestling is. It can eat you and spit you up, and I talked about it in my promo, and it's kind of like everyday life. You have your highs and your lows, right? And then we did the SCI tournament. What was it, 2021? Because we didn't do it in 2020, right?
Right.
Or it was like a skip a year because of the pandemic, and then we had it. And then I lost the first round to Alex Kane, who's MLW champion. Doing great. And then the next year, I wasn't even supposed to be in it, but I was there because I had nothing else better to do. And being me, that's what I do, right? Another highway, another town, even if I'm not booked. And somehow Trish missed her flight, and so I wrestled Masha, who's also doing very well, and then lose to her, and then I'll come to this year, and those are the lows we had, and here's the highs. So winning it was pretty sweet, pretty meaningful for me, and yeah, it was wild. What a weekend!
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been really cool to watch. Like from my perspective, is someone, and we'll get into this throughout the interview, but I went to a lot of the SUP shows in Nashville, out of the Basement East. I used to live in Nashville, so I got to see a lot of your rise and that scene, and especially in that, obviously that links in closely the SCI, SUP, Action, TWE, all the whole area. And I was going to ask you about that because I remember you winning the Future Showcase, and that tournament's become such a big deal and a launching point. I remember Marco Stunt winning that, for instance, pre AEW, and I mean, and so. I guess if you can speak even more to just kind of how important it is for not just winning the SCI, because that's in my opinion, that's my favorite tournament every year. I look forward to it so much each year to see, because I think it's such a spotlight of all independent talent, but even more specifically the Southeast scene. So what's it like to be kind of one of the guys that they're putting kind of on the back of the whole scene and saying this is really legitimately one of our top guys.
Yeah, being a guy from Iowa. I mean, if you look at a map, Iowa's not the Southeast, right? Of
course.
And when I was on I'm always on the run, but when I was on the run, cutting my teeth, trying to make some waves in independent wrestling or just wrestling in general, outside of Iowa and IWA, that was kind of really it. You know what I mean? And for them to, hey, yeah, you want to drive 8 hours to Nashville? That's cool. Yeah, please do. And that's what you kind of what you kind of do, right? If you want to go places, you make it happen. And a lot of times a lot of the shows I first started on where I showed up and helped out. And then when that bone gets thrown to you, you either sink or swim. And luckily I've been able to swim. And guys like Dylan Hales and Matt Griffin and Kevin Koo and Dominic Guarini and Scott Hensley, and the list goes on, where these guys, where they just, they're all good people, but also too, they give everybody opportunities, because it's hard. It's hard to get those, and not even just in wrestling, just in life. And, being able to do that and creating bonds like that, and kind of having a home in a way, away from home. And I think that's the Southeast for me. And, Marco winning it, right? I feel like obviously there was a rise, right? Because there was AEW that was created, right? So there was obviously great independent talent that was, becoming a thing where we could put this on TV, right? Yeah. It's almost like history, where it all goes circles, right? You think of WCW and the territory days, and kind of the same thing, but in different words. And Marco winning it, there was such a rise in the South, that happening. Obviously there's other points too, right? Before Marco winning the Action Future Showcase tournament, you had other people, that were in the Southeast that were, putting in the work. But him winning it, and then the rise of it all, and then obviously having independent wrestling TV, and then the on demand whole big thing where everybody's doing it, outside of wrestling too. I feel stars align in certain ways, and him winning it like that and then taking it off like that made it a really big deal, at least for that Action's Future Showcase tournament. So then the next year, I don't know if it was because of guys like Kurt Stallion for me, or just guys that were just highwaymen. There was something about it. Obviously I like the song because that's who I am, and I really took it to heart. So me putting it in the work like that, I was maybe hopefully one day something happens out of it. I didn't know me winning the Future Showcase tournament would be it, but it did, and that's what happened. And then it's a big deal because it basically puts you in a platform or a certain criteria of hey, this guy or this girl can really, they're obviously they're good, but it's a whole nother thing where it's no, they actually go out and get it. I don't know where Rachel's from, Armstrong. She's definitely not from the Southeast, though.
No, and she's incredible. I didn't know a whole lot about her until recently, but she's fantastic.
I'd seen her a bunch in Black Label Pro, and when I saw she was in the tournament, I was she's definitely winning. She's been putting in the work, and she did. And it's guys like that, and Robert Martyr, and now you see all these guys, they're all doing stuff, and it's pretty neat. And then it's not even just people outside the Southeast that win these things too. Think of Jay Newman, right? Guy's been holding down Chattanooga, since he's been wrestling since he was 14 years old.
Teenager, yeah.
And then AC Mack,
yep.
He, they created a whole entire season of wrestling for a show, all based. It's not all based on him, but he was the flag bearer,
Uncharted territory, yeah. The Southeast first, yeah. That was he was a main focus. And by the way, there would have been a lot more with I'm sure you remember this as well, but during the pandemic, he was the Bone Storm champion and the Action champion simultaneously, and then went on to win the IWTV title. There's a lot more they could have done with all that, but everything got shut down.
100%. And actually, to even let's take the curtain out a little bit. I was the way that. If let's say the pandemic didn't happen or whatever, I would have been the sub champion.
Wow, so that's how that was going to play out.
Yeah,
wow.
So it would have. There's a bunch of shit like that.
Wow, because I was going to ask you too, and we'll probably bounce around, but I remember the Teddy King story very well, with you and Jaden, and that kind of got derailed because Teddy left the business. And you were so there was your career and stuff alone is kind of wild, like kind of the highs and lows. And that's something I didn't know that. So you were actually penciled in to be so were you gonna beat AC? Was he gonna hold the belt until you?
So we can even rewind all this back, which is crazy. Like, I'm trying to remember in my memory bank. Like the Teddy King stuff. Like originally, I was just like there. You know what I mean? Like they were grooming me for whatever. But like really, the story was supposed to be Teddy King and Jaden.
JV, yeah, right.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, Teddy King was supposed to win the Actions Future Showcase tournament that year.
Okay, that makes sense.
But then when he like, I mean, it happens, right, all the time.
Sure.
Like he stopped wrestling, and then I guess when that opportunity was thrown to me, where it's like, hey, instead of Teddy now, it's going to be you. Like with the story with Jaden, and then let's see how it goes. And it turned out to be, a pretty sweet story.
Yeah.
And, it's crazy like that. There's like certain things that happen. Like then I probably would have won the Action Future Showcase that year. And then it probably wouldn't have had me a chance to face AC and then beat AC Mack for the belt. And then who knows what happened after that.
That's so wild.
It's all crazy. And like when we go back to highs and lows, like I haven't really like, I'm sure if you can find me on Twitter and like you go back to like 2020 and stuff, and that was definitely a low point for me. It was a low point for everybody, right? Because it's the pandemic. It sucked for everyone. I'm not the only one who didn't benefit from the pandemic. I mean, there's a couple people that did. Like, look at Ben, like Ben Carter or Nathan Frazier, right? Like Ben's one of my best friends, and because of him in the pandemic, that's how he got signed to WWE. I mean, I think either way he would have, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
y'all have history through Black and Brave by chance as well.
Oh yeah, he was a Black and Brave kid too.
Well, I know he was, but I didn't know like if y'all like knew each other from there.
Yeah, we did. So when he had like some ring experience, but like when he came to the States, he like obviously went to school to play soccer. But it's funny, like obviously he loves soccer and he wanted education, but like really in reality it was for him to find his ways to get into wrestling, which is crazy. And yeah, I met Ben. I was class 8. I think he was like class like 12 or something, maybe. And we just kind of like hit it off a lot because we had like the same mindset. Like we both loved wrestling. We were sports kids, like just all that kind of stuff. And like when he was living in the South, because he went to school in like Tennessee, and I was running the South a lot at that time, like we just kind of bonded. And then like when he like moved back to Davenport, he lived in the bunkhouse with me. And then like we just kind of went everywhere. AIW, GCW, like AAW, any of the shows you name it, that's what we all did. And but yeah, like going back to the pandemic stuff, like for me, like I had all these things lined up that were going to happen, and then just like everybody else, like it got taken away from me. So then you had to like sit back and be like, damn, like what did I do wrong? But everything happens for a reason. And then when you look at it now, maybe not back then, I didn't understand, but also too I was young too, and then all that shit. So it's like pretty wild. Yeah. I guess cream rises to the top sometimes. But, you know what I mean? Like,
sure, the perseverance. Absolutely, Jeremy. If you want to get some questions in, I don't want to take this interview over too bad. I can talk all day about the Southeast.
There's a lot of like crazy history about just all of it, and it's
yeah.
I'm super grateful for just the whole scenic city and the whole Southeast. So.
Well, Dylan, this isn't a question. This is a lead into Jeremy asking a question here because I don't want to leave you out here, But just for what it's worth, I don't know if you've gone back and watched your win in the Scenic City Invitational, but then the finals. But Dylan mentions on commentary, Dylan Hales mentions on commentary that a lot of the stuff you mentioned about yourself, about how you were a guy who was just like putting in a lot of work, who was showing up, just trying to basically get a spot, a handful of years ago. And then that led into your speech afterwards, which I thought was a really great, just a very heartfelt, just humble, just you seem like just a good dude, you know, like a good hardworking guy, and that it really comes across, you know. So
right. No, I appreciate that.
I was gonna say. it was a great victory speech, and like for someone like I've followed enough of when it comes to the GCW stuff and stuff in MLW and everything. Jensen is very much Southeast historian, knows everything about everything, can tell you about all these matches that I've never seen before. But I was just gonna ask on kind of the GCW and MLW and the sort of moving away a little bit from the SEI sort of stuff. Like you've shared the ring with a lot of people throughout your career, a lot of people, television people who either work in television now or have worked in television previously. Was there a moment, a match that where you were like, okay, I've sort of made this and this is what I'm good at. And this is, I know I can do this. Or did any of the television people come up to you, or any veteran television or not come up to you and be like, hey man, like you're great at this, keep doing this type of thing?
All the above. Like the biggest thing I've learned from guys that were either on TV or guys that are currently on TV, or to my trainer like Seth Rollins and people that I've run through and been with, or you know my best friends like Mance, Justice, Effie. The one thing that's consistent that I keep hearing is just keep going, right? And that's what I've like. And I say this a lot to like some of the young guys where it's like, look, man, like talent's all great. Like everybody's got talent, right? There's a lot of great wrestlers out there, but it's you being a hustler and you being and making sacrifices and doing like those little things that like will make you go above and beyond, I think, right? Like, so then like saying like just keep going, because there's a lot of days, right, that we all sit and we wake up and we go to work and we're like, damn, I fucking hate this. You know what I mean? Like we all have it, and love and hate's a very fine line, and like there's days like that in pro wrestling too. You know, like I mean, it's not fun to sit in 10, 12-hour days and TV taping at MLW, right? Or like, you know, driving 6 to 8 hours, you know, for GCW. Like it's not glamorous, right? Like there's those things like people don't see, you know, like they see you coming out of the curtain and you wrestling. But it's all the other things that you don't see. That's like a very small part, I feel like. Because if you think about it, right? Like let's say I'm wrestling in Dayton, Ohio. That's a 7-hour one-way, right? For a 10-minute match. That little 10-minute, it's worth it, right? But when you think of time and you think of all that, with all that, it's I always try to tell everybody, or I even tell myself, where it's like you just gotta keep going. That's like the biggest thing. Like that's how a lot of these guys like make it, honestly, or you know whatever that means, right? Like I don't know what that means. Like my saying might be different than Jeremy's saying, or it might be different than Steven's saying. You know, like maybe my dreams and aspirations are different than yours. Maybe yours is WWE, maybe mine's Japan. I don't know. Like you know, so or it could be anything. I don't know, or making money and getting to wrestle on somebody else's dime. That's kind of cool. So I don't know. I really don't know what it is, right? Like I would love to do all those things, but you never know. And I'm happy doing what I'm doing now. And it's, as the cliche thing, it's all about the journey, man, you know, like, or whatever the hell they say. And I try to live by that. So
yeah. Well, speaking of
that answers.
No, that does for sure. You know, speaking of that whole journey and some of the guys you just mentioned, how did you get linked up and like so close with the rest of the guys from the SGC and Allie Catch? I mean, I always kind of
Allie's always there. She's like her sister.
Yeah.
If you think about it, outside of Effie, we were all kind of Midwest guys, right? Like Mance is in the Midwest. Justice is in the Midwest. Allie's obviously from Texas, but at the time when we all became friends, she was living in Indiana. She was living in Ohio, right? We all have like the same bond of like, we love wrestling and we'll make it work, whatever that means, right? So when that was like all happening, we were all in IWA together. We were all in AIW together. We got really close in AIW a lot. That was like the first start of it all. Because we had Eddie Kingston around, and Eddie's kind of like all of us, or I guess we're all kind of like Eddie, where we want to do it for a long time. We weren't the first pick, right, in everybody's minds, right? We're not like the chosen ones or whatever the hell you want to call it. We all just kept going. We keep grinding, and we live and breathe this. So like, I feel like that kind of gravitated to all of us. So we all became friends, and obviously, after shows and stuff, hang out and have a couple beers at the bar and at AIW, and we all just became friends that way. And then it kind of just flourished where it was like, here's guys like Mance who's like been through the ringer. Justice has been through the ringer, right? He used to be in WWE, and he's traveled around. He's been doing it for over a decade. And then like, obviously there's Eddie, right? Who's done it all, and like, here's a young guy like me who was kind of sinking his teeth in like that. So they kind of like, gravitated, or I kind of gravitated towards them, and they kind of took me under their wing. And then it's almost like Bone Street Crew in a way, where like you have all these like walks of life and all these different things. And like, when we finally like put it on camera, because obviously fans like go to after parties and stuff and they see us hanging out, and we all kind of just like, we're like, yeah, like let's do it. And then like AIW was like the first one that kind of did it. And by this time Eddie's not around, he gets signed to AEW, so because of that, now there's me into it. And then that flourished into AAW, and then that flourished into GCW. And then that's when we kind of all met similar guys like Effie. So like, and it just kind of all works out. And then now we have a group chat and we text about it every day, and it could be about wrestling or life or our problems or whatever it is. So
yeah,
it's pretty sweet.
I've always loved the group dynamic because of pretty much everything you just said, and a lot of like newer fans probably don't even know how Eddie Kingston is involved. You know what I mean? Because you don't see him with y'all nowadays. Yeah. So, but he was obviously a humongous part of that when it was all kicking off.
Absolutely.
And someone or AIW, obviously that's another great company. Love AIW, and somebody who's done really well there that I actually got to see you wrestle against. Just wanted to get an opinion on this performer. I was in the Basement East years ago. I watched you wrestle one of the just damnedest, y'all beat the hell out of each other. You and Joshua Bishop.
Yeah. And he's another guy that like, he's not an SGC, like he does his own thing, and that's fine. But he's always hanging out with us.
Well, him and Justice will always be linked by the spots that they've.
I was there for all of it. I remember like a week or maybe it was a week or two before that spot off the Odeon, them talking about it at the Basement East at Seth, because they were all there. I think I'm trying to remember who Justice wrestled. I think it might have been Warhorse, maybe.
Probably. Yeah, I remember they did have a match with each other.
Yeah, which was nuts.
Yeah.
I remember them talking about it, and I'm just like, "There's no way. There's no way."
By the way, for people who don't know what we're talking about, Matthew Justice did a diving like Death Valley driver off this balcony. Like, we didn't throw Bishop; they went together off of this thing,
like at least 20 feet in the air.
Yeah, through like a few tables and just flashed onto the ground.
4 tables, and I think only 2 of them broke.
Yeah,
because they missed it. Yeah, it was crazy. It was like the craziest thing I've ever seen.
That's one of the few times. That's one of the few times, by the way, I've checked up on a wrestler. Like I've DM'd Josh after that, and I was like, "Dude, are you alive right now? Like, what was that?
Yeah, what happened?"
and he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm still breathing." They're just like, "All right, like you're good, I guess. Like y'all are crazy."
That kind of like really reamped Justice's career. I feel like because right when that happened, he took off in GCW and everything like that. And I can't say it reamped Josh's career because Josh's career was just beginning. Because he's like 25, which is freaking nuts.
Oh man, I was watching.
He might be 26 now,
right
now, but either way, dude's still young and he's still killing it, and he's the man. There's no doubt. There's nothing else to say with him. He's the man. They both are. They're both crazy.
I've seen a lot of evolution out of Bishop over the years. I don't know if you're familiar with the slutty cat persona that he once was.
I wasn't around when that was happening, but I definitely heard myself.
It was awesome. Him and Alley Catch had a great little rivalry. Like right as Sup was starting up, and that was before you had come in. That's right. But I love talking to any kind of Sup OG wrestlers like you guys because there's so much great history in that scene and not just Sup but action and that whole Southeast scene. But what's so cool about it is it parlays so well for y'all into the whole country because you guys are you're everywhere now. Not which is just awesome.
No, it definitely that's why I think the Southeast is so great because everybody talks about the Northeast, everybody talks about the East Coast, how it's the best wrestling you can find, and obviously WWF or WWE or WWF, what do you want to call them, right? That's kind of where they all started. And Madison Square Garden's this big deal and all these kind of things. But it's yeah, you're right. But also too, look at the Southeast, man. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. It really did. When Sup was first starting, I remember looking on Twitter and seeing these guys when it was guys like Kurt Stallion, guys like Mance, guys like MJF, guys like girls like Allie, Dom Koo, the Carnies. You had all these people, and it was there's something here, and I want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? And they really gravitated to that and all that. And it makes it sweet when you have people that all kind of think the same mindset as you. So freaking awesome. And honestly, that was going off of because of Sup is the reason why a lot of these guys wrestle on MLW and GCW and New Japan and AEW and WWE or Impact even list goes on where because I did that SCI weekend 2019, it made people like Brett Lauderdale and people like Drew from Beyond and stuff they were like, okay, there's something with this kid. Let's use him. Let's see what he can do. You know what I mean? And then you make it work.
I wanted to ask about MLW because Mance kind of had the falling out with MLW. And then we saw him return, and it was not just Mance who came. He brought the entire crew with him. So how did that relationship, to the best of your knowledge, kind of get repaired? And not only did it get repaired, it was all right, I'm coming and they're coming with me.
I think at the time when he was signed to a contract, he obviously didn't want to do it anymore because of other things that were happening or gonna happen. And I guess they wouldn't let him out of it. And he was like, well, okay, well, I'm not going to pay my way out of it like some other people have done. I'm not going to say names and stuff like that. And Mance is a grinder, right? That's why he's one of my best friends because we all think the same. And when his contract finally got up, he was out. And then the next night he gets hurt, hurts his leg. And then he's out for 8 months or maybe even longer. I can't. It all kind of blends together. But I mean, he had a serious leg injury, right? He broke his leg, and I think like Mance has a certain energy that not many people have, right? And I think Court and some of the MLW people kind of realize that, and you know, time and place and money kind of all kind of talks to itself, and they figured out some type of deal. And then as that was happening, when he came back, we were all doing all this SGC stuff, you know, especially him and Matt, you know, being tag team champions of GCW and all this kind of stuff. And me being kind of local, moving to New Jersey, you know, since they're running the arena a lot, it kind of all just kind of made itself work. And they were like, we want to use all these guys because SGC is kind of a big deal, you know, lack of a better word. You know, we were running everywhere, and then I guess Court realized it and saw it, and then here we are, which is crazy. Yeah, so that's kind of like how it all kind of went. There's some other stuff too, but I don't want to say it all. But that's pretty like what I mean by that, it's like certain money stuff, but like it all worked out, and we have a great time there. Like we obviously we do all the things for MLW, whatever Court wants to do and whatever he wants to ask, and when we go out there, it's pretty sweet, and it's a cool deal, and MLW is a great place, and people can shit talk it all they want or whatever, but that's all for the birds, man. So
yeah, I don't understand. I think the only bad rap MLW had that I think was legitimate gripe was the delay between when they were taping their shows and when people could watch them. Now they've closed that gap significantly to where things are airing a lot faster, and the pay-per-views are live, which is massive. So
I agree.
Yeah, so I think honestly, like, because to be fair, the MLW pay-per-view that y'all just ran, that ran on the same night at the same time as CM Punk wrestling on Collision, as UFC's Robbie Lawler had his retirement fight at the same time this was going on. There was also a GCW event, I think, at the same exact time.
There was too much fucking wrestling that day.
Right. And so MLW.
It really was. That's like been a problem lately, I feel like, where like, I feel like before the pandemic, everybody worked with each other.
Yes.
Which like obviously certain companies ain't gonna work with each other, but like it's just like there was like all that you just said, and then on top of it you had GCW, Revolver, and West Coast Pro all running all at the same time. Like at least
right. West Coast ran a little bit later in the night, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you had all these shows, and I'm sitting here like I'm booked at all these places, and like I have to pick one now. Like, damn. Like, which is not a bad problem to have, obviously, but like, it's just crazy. That day was crazy. It really was. And
So my point for MLW though with that was that even though all that was going on, I still saw a lot of people tweeting about the show. Like there were still people tuning in for MLW that were enjoying it. There was a lot of big title changes. You know, you mentioned Alex Kane. I'm a big fan of his. Have been for a long time, and it's great seeing him succeeding. So like y'all have a ton of great talent in MLW, including I wanted to get kind of your opinion on this. Just if there's any differences or just like if it's cool or like just kind of how things have worked out where like the calling for MLW, for instance.
Right.
I think they're a really interesting group. I like Raven. I've liked him since I was a little kid in ECW, right? And like in his group, you got Akira, who's a guy who's grinded the Southeast, part of the KOBK crew with Brett Ison and those dudes. You've got RSP, who you worked with plenty, I'm sure, at the time, in GCW. So it's like all y'all still like wound up. Like it's funny how small of a world wrestling can be, where like these people you've worked with year after year in all these different places, you just like wind up in the same spot. And I think y'all got a lot of cool stuff. Like you got the SGC doing their thing, you got the calling doing their thing, you got Alex Kane doing his thing. I think it's a good product. You got Fatu and everything going on. I mean,
they found like what works and who they like, and I mean obviously everything goes in waves, but like I think this group at MLW has probably been one of the best, because like for a while I feel like it was always like guys that were I don't want to say signed everywhere else, but like when you think of certain people, you don't think of. I'm trying to explain this well. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Some of their old shows, right? You had a lot of people that like they were everywhere. Like they didn't have their own core guys, but like at the same time too, like obviously we're all everywhere too. But it's like I feel like now it's more like MLW guys, and then it's like it's not like just some big name. I mean, obviously you get a few, right? But like, how do I explain?
Well, no, I understand. I understand what you're saying because also without the delay issues I'm talking about, you're not going to run into problems like having Karrion Kross on the show 6 months into him returning to the WWE.
Yeah,
you know, like
that kind of stuff, and like names like that. And I mean, obviously it's cool to have guys like Killing Cross or Killer Cross and John Morrison and like all these people too. Like it was pretty. Like when we talked about earlier, like people like you wrestled with. Like one of the like recent things in my brain that I was like, holy shit, I'm in the ring doing a spot with John Morrison. That's wild. I watched John Morrison when I was a kid. It's crazy. And then like being in a ring with him, I was like, holy shit. All right. And he's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know, man. What do you want to do? You know, like it's pretty wild. Like it's John Morrison, like, you know.
Yeah. Very cool guy. We had the opportunity to interview him earlier this year, and he's
a strange
super
cat,
nice.
but I dig it.
Yeah,
because he's a strange cat. I love it.
I feel like he's having some early mornings, man. I feel like he's having early mornings. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But no, John Morrison. It's cool to see a guy who's accomplished so much, has been around for so long, be like that though. Just like go to the like maybe the more up and coming town and be like, yo, what do you want to do? Like I'm cool with whatever.
Yeah, it was wild to me. And like even like Raven, like it's fucking Raven, and he's awesome. Like hanging out and like has his like points and like his certain things. Like I remember when I wrestled Ricky at MLW, we had this whole like spot where like when Raven comes in, just don't touch him, right? Because he's Raven's. We talk about being through the ringer. Raven's been through the ringer, and like and that's not a bad thing. It's like guys put his time in, right? And it's cool. And like I remember like when he came in, I was like so in the zone, and I almost like hit him, and I was like, oh shit, I can't hit him. And I turn around and like start hitting somebody else. It was just wild to me. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna get in trouble, but everything was all right.
So you were not allowed to hit Raven. Was Raven just not? He wasn't bumping. Or was that just
out of respect?
Part of the spot, or was that just the rule? We're not hitting Raven.
How old Raven? You know what I mean? Like, I think it was both. It's for the spot and for the moment, and then also too like Raven doesn't need to do that. He's already he paid his dues.
You know, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, work smarter, not harder. I would hope to be like that one day if I'm in it that long. But you know what I mean? Like, but like the best part with Raven is like when you have like the objective sometimes is you're not gonna get it all the time, but the objective a lot of it is in order for you to be a better wrestler, right, or a better entertainer, performer, whatever you want to call it, you got to be with people that are better than you. And like somebody like Raven in the locker room with you, where like he can cut a promo, he can work, he can he can do it all, and he's been through it all, obviously, right? And like having somebody like that, and then him just coming up to you being like, "Hey, cowboy, man, that was pretty good. This is what I would do next time," or he'll tell you things that make you think like way out of the spectrum, where it's like, holy shit, all right. Instead of me pigeonholing myself in tunnel vision of just pro wrestling, think of like expanding of like life, and like because like not many people can understand wrestling, but a lot of people can understand the experiences of like everyday life, and it's like those kind of things. It's just like, damn, like it's awesome to have guys like that, and it's made me a better, not even just a better wrestler, a better person. So
yeah, it's wild seeing Raven still out there and involved, and it's something that I think like makes sense and is good on the show. Yeah, like legitimately, you don't even
have to be there. You know what I mean? Like if I was in my 60s, I would want to retire. You know what I mean? And enjoy life, but like at the same time, the old saying of, what is it? It's like if you're not working or whatever, or if you love what you do, you don't have to work a day in your life, and like maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. What was the quote, by the way? It's not the size of the fight of the dog. It's the. I popped him. That's great. I broke Manders.
I didn't realize. Okay, so this is how my head was going. That was one of the best weekends of my life. Not even the obviously winning the thing, like even like personal stuff too, like in a way. But also like a lot of shit's happened in my life, like till then, like personal that like are pretty much my lowest of lows, were like like with relationships and shit like that, and like all that kind of stuff, and like so you got all these things going through your head, and like they tell you you're gonna win the tournament, and you're like, holy shit, okay, this is actually happening, and then like it doesn't really like for me it doesn't really hit me till it happens. Like I remember like when I wrestled like Nick Gage, for example, like people would come up to me and be like, oh, you ready? And I'm like, it's fucking Tuesday. Like it's the show's on Saturday. Like, like no, like, but like some people would be like, oh yeah, I'm super excited. But like me, it's like, I don't know what it is. I've always been that way since I was a kid, like playing football and all that stuff. And like when it happened, like literally, like when the pin happened, and the the trophy was presented, it's just like the full adrenaline of emotions and everything just hit you, and it's like, holy shit, man, like So like, I never thought of like, hey, I should probably like think of like some things for this speech, and I didn't at all. Normally, I like think a little bit where it's like, hey, here's some blueprints or bullet points. Like it's even like with my matches, like I don't really like. I try to have bullet points. I don't like doing A to Z. Some people do. I'm not saying it doesn't work. And I've done both, but like I know like it might be because like the sports and like being aware and having awareness and stuff and like feeling the moment, and like I didn't have any of that. So when they gave me the mic and I cut a promo, I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to say. But then I thought of like an old thing like my mom used to always tell me. And like when I was totally speaking, I totally like didn't say it right, and I was like, something like that, ha ha ha. And everybody.
You played it off fine. I mean, everyone knew what you meant. It was very hard. It was very obvious, by the way, in a good way.
Yeah.
You were just speaking from the heart. That wasn't like a pre-planned speech.
No,
yeah,
not at all. And I just was like, damn. And that was like one of the things. Like I remember, like being a kid, like it's not the size of the was. I don't even know if I can say it now.
I'm gonna mess it up myself. I'm afraid to say it.
Not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog.
That's it. You nailed it.
And like, I've heard that since I was a little kid, and like, believe it or not, right? Like, in the world of football, I'm not the biggest guy. You know what I mean? Like when we talk about like the trenches of Division I football, like especially at like a Big Ten school like Iowa. Dude, we had all offensive line average 6'6", 300 pounds. I am not 6'6", 300 pounds. Barely 6 foot, 240 pounds. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like that always stuck with me, like that saying, even though I couldn't say it right because of the emotions and just not thinking it. And I was like, oh well, this is in my left pocket because that's how I always believe myself. And like, it's wild. Yeah, it was funny. I was like, I totally fucked this up. All right, whatever.
No, it was all good.
They know what I'm talking about.
Well, that was in front of like that's your people too. That crowd in the TW arena, like those are all Manders fans in there. Like, you could have said anything and it would have been.
I bet if I would have said that in AC or Philly, they probably would have tore my ass.
Hey, well, speaking of like other places, it was just announced. Me and Jeremy. So this interview runs as like a part of our Thursday morning show. So we'll do some topics before this interview, and something we're going to talk about that people would have just heard us talk about a little bit is GCW just announced that they're going to be doing Korakuen Hall in Japan, which is unreal. So is that a show that you plan to be a part of, and do you have any opponent you would like to wrestle on that?
I would love to be a part of that, but I haven't heard nothing. Who to wrestle? There's so many guys. I don't know. I haven't heard nothing from Brett or anything. I know we have other stuff planned that we're doing that's international, which will be sick, and probably in the next month you'll probably hear about it. And it's almost like a gate opener for other things that I know is in the works. So it'll be pretty sweet. And I don't want to say it all yet, but
That's
yes,
fine.
but yes.
Oh, we like get some scoops here. Let's try to try to get some scoops.
We can always
going
edit
on.
things out too. We can always bleep
I
things.
said international, so if you think
Yeah.
it's still associated with GCW, so
Right.
there's that. But it's not.
True.
It's not Corrigan Hall. I haven't heard nothing.
Okay. I didn't mean to bring that up, by the way, as like,
no,
like
totally
you
fine,
know,
because I would love to be a part of it. And if you guys want to,
people will see this. So Brett, if you want,
Brett, Corrigan Hall, one called Manders, that'd be kind of sick.
that would be incredibly sick.
It'd be incredible.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a. Obviously, you have bucket lists of things, but like I think it's pretty well known that I love Japanese wrestling. I think the Japanese culture is sick. It's not because I'm a cowboy. It's because of like, it's just the way they operate and the way they tell stories really, really, really speaks to me. I don't know if it's because of being a football player and like all that kind of stuff, and me loving all Japan Pro Wrestling, of like the gaijins of like Dr. Death and Stan Hansen and Terry Gordy and Bruiser Brody and Terry Funk and Dory Funk, and the list goes on, right? Duel the Butcher, all that. And it's like, yeah, Corrigan Hall would be sick. That'd be like my Madison Square Garden. You know?
Oh man, okay, we gotta make this happen now.
Yeah,
Brett, come on, man.
I think when you manifest stuff, it'll happen. I don't know when it will happen, but I'm sure down the line somewhere it'll happen.
Yes,
If it's not then, it'll be some other time. And honestly, it'll all work out. And that's the way I try to operate. And I don't know if that's because of Mance. Mance has been a real opportunist lately and a positive thinker, and being around people like that is awesome. So yeah, I don't know yet. I hope so.
Well, how about like in general? Are there people you haven't wrestled? I mean, there's obviously like there's like the realistic like immediate opportunities of like people who would be available, but like if you can kind of almost put it in two categories of like people you'd like to wrestle that are available like right now that you haven't been able to, and then maybe people long term that might not be available that maybe a little bit down the line you'd really like to wrestle that you might be like a fan of.
The one that pops in my brain is Jun Kasai. That'd be pretty sick.
Oh yeah.
I'm not even a big, like, I love deathmatch wrestling, but like I don't think people would put me as a deathmatch wrestler. Something about him that you just gravitate towards. He's like Effie, you know what I mean? And being around him and seeing how he operates and watching his matches, obviously, and watching all of his shit from when I was a teenager, where it's like, that'd be sick. Another guy would be Mox.
Yeah.
Having Mance wrestling was sick. Obviously tagging with Mox was sick. we did that at Revolver. We did an 8-man where it was SGC and Mox versus Rascals and RSP. And just having someone who's at that pecking order of the tippy top, the 1% of, he is, the guy. And like having him just say some things that like we all say was mind blowing. You know what I mean? Like the way he operates, the way he thinks, the way he does things. And we all sat there and we're like, I mean, obviously him and Justice, many people probably don't know this. Like him and Justice, like we're in
FCW. Yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
And like, so there's history there. And we're like just how he operates and how he thinks of like certain spots in wrestling or certain like things and like all that kind of stuff. Like it made us like, holy shit, like here's a guy that's the tippy top of pro wrestling where we all inspire and want to be. And he kind of thinks like us. And it's because sometimes we'll like be in the car and, we're driving somewhere or we're kind of just all just sitting there kind of just talking and thinking. And it's like, sometimes we think like, man, like, is the business different than what we actually think it is? Like you have all these other, there's no wrong in wrestling, right? But there's many rights. And like, we sometimes like feel like the way we think and operate in wrestling, it doesn't really work versus like all these other things that are happening. So we're kind of like wondering, like, is it us that's the problem, or is it them that's the problem, or is it both? I don't know. But then having Mox around that whole night and that experience, or even like, obviously Mox has been on a bunch of shows with us for Revolver, and it's like we get like little breadcrumbs. We're like, huh, okay. And then we finally had the match with him, and he like literally like we're like, yeah, like he does think like us, and that's sick. And it kind of inspires us to be like, okay, well, we're actually doing something if like he thinks the same as us. So yeah, so Mox would be another one. Fucking Sammy. I saw Sammy on Sunday.
Wait, which Sammy? Which Sammy? You got to specify.
Callahan, sorry.
Oh, okay, Sammy Callahan. Gotcha.
I saw Callahan at Prestige in Asbury Park Sunday. I didn't even know he was going to be there. And I walk in the locker room, and we were just like talking or whatever. And then he was like, yeah. He's like, so the third, you're doing this, this, and this. And he's like, we almost had you versus Mox. And I was like, why would you say that to me? Why would you say that to me? Why would you say that? Come on. But like.
Now he's got to deliver.
Yeah. I'm sure that's one of those things like Corrigan Hall where like, I'm sure it'll manifest and it'll definitely happen somewhere eventually. I don't know. And it was kind of cool. Like Mox, because like after the show, like Mox kind of like took a liking to me for a little bit. I don't know why, but he just started asking questions, and I've obviously met him before at Black and Brave. I mean, he probably don't know that, but like, no, I was just telling him some of my backstory, and he was like, "Oh shit, you're a Tyler Black kid, all right." And then like he just went on this whole rant about him and Black on the Indies and FCW together, and it was pretty funny. And I was texting, I guess Colby Lopez or whatever you want to call him. I was texting Rollins about it, and he was like, "That's sick, man. Like, like it's kind of cool." So, yeah, those would be the two. I think Eddie Kingston would be one. It was supposed to happen, and it's never happened. It was supposed to happen to AIW when he was still on the Indies. It didn't happen.
If you want to call out Callahan for not booking the Moxley match, and just give me just a nice headline to write out of this article, and then we can just manifest it through that. Like one Called Manders says, you'd be surprised at how many stuff we've manifested just through headlines.
Yeah, Jeremy. By the way, the guy we're speaking right now to the guy who writes the headlines for the website, Jeremy Lambert. So if you want to make a call out that's going to go on the internet, we will actually put it in print and put it out there for you. So
Sammy Callahan told me he was going to book me against Jon Moxley, and then it's on the internet, and then Callahan's like, "Well, now I got to do it." Shit.
I might get heat for it. Why are you telling people this, man?
Mander's disappointed that he isn't booked for Cork and all. And then boom, we send it right to Brett. Boom, boom, boom.
But I bet it's one of those other things too that like Brett runs so many goddamn shows, right? Yes. That like he probably hadn't even like thought of the card.
No, and I'm just joking around, by the way. I mean, obviously, I hope that you get whatever you
right. Yeah.
I was going to ask about Japan, regardless, like whether it would be GCW or whether it just be
maybe it should be like Manders wants Japan or something like that.
Yeah, we could do that.
That would work. I would approve of that.
Okay.
Cool. And then we can throw in there once Russell June Kasai potentially.
Yeah. Absolutely, that works.
Okay, cool.
We'll manifest all of this.
Erie be another one.
Oh yeah. I mean, he does a lot in the States. I got to see him live at the Atlanta show at Center Stage. Him and Cole Radrick one-on-one.
Yeah, that match was sick.
Yeah, he is, man.
There was for like a solid 2 weeks when he was living with Sammy, and I was running with the Ohio crew a little bit, and we kind of were like on the same shows like for like a week or two, and I basically like drove him everywhere, and me and Shiggy like came pretty close because of that, and we never got to wrestle, and obviously because he was all the way up here and I was like cutting my teeth in, but then some tournament somewhere internationally, right? Pretty recently. And that might be something that's going to happen here in about a month or so. for 2 months or so. So there's the bit put in. So now you can figure out what I was saying. So maybe it's there. I don't know.
I see the breadcrumbs you dropped.
Yeah.
I like it.
I got you.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to mention real quick too, based on talking so much about Mox there. I thought it was really cool personally as a fan, and I'm sure you'd feel the same way as one of the talents at GCW. But like, in a certain sense, I would like the GCW champion to be someone who's there often. Like I really like Blake Christian with the title. I think he's killing it. I love Masha having the title when she did. Nick Gage is obviously the face of the brand, but having Mox there, what did that mean to like the whole brand of GCW? Just having him even just involved, because I felt like there was so much buzz for just like people who have no idea what GCW really even is, and they were like, "Wait, Mox is on this? I got it. He's the champion of this. I got to see what this is." And then he wrestled a lot of like up and coming talent. He didn't just come in there and like kill everyone. He like raised a lot of people with him. I felt like
100%. That was at the time when like I feel like GCW went from like an indie promotion to like I don't even know what the next like top would be, just like a legit company, I guess. I don't know, like for lack of a better word. Or a top tier promotion. Like when we like, I guess sometimes when we talk about like what's a top promotion, like we obviously WWE, AEW, like I would put GCW up in those categories.
I would too, especially at the time around Hammerstein. I mean that was definitely
like that was like their like hey coming out party kind of thing.
Yes,
even though like maybe some people say it wasn't delivered, but
there was limitations on what they could do. I mean, I get it and it's also
New York's brutal. New York's brutal. Like we had that problem at War Games for MLW. Like you advertise this as War Games, right? And you do this at Melrose, where I don't think it was like, it's not like Court's fault or anything, but it's Melrose. New York's pretty strict, where like you can't really bleed and you can't really do crazy spots. And like we did like 2 crazy spots and like 2 people bled and like they went absolutely like bananas over it. Like in the sense of like, what the fuck? Not like the fans, but like
right.
When you've seen us do War Games at GCW, and you see all the crazy shit we've all done, and then like here's Melrose where you can't really do much. So yeah, I mean I get it. Hammerstein you can only do so much, and that might be because of history's past of ECW doing crazy shit or Ring of Honor or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, that was like I would feel like Mox being around was like the first like you can bring outside talent. Like he was like the stepping stone of like, or he was the flag bearer, or he was the whatever you want to call it, where he was like the guy where like, okay, like you brought in guys like Cardona, you brought in guys like Vikingo, you brought in guys like, list goes on, who's been in GCW that aren't your normal regulars, and it made it a big deal, I think, and it's pretty sick when you have that. And we talk about how earlier where you want to be with people that have been around way more than you. You know what I mean? They're better than you in a way. So it's like it's sick.
Do you have any? This will just follow up for the Hammerstein show. Do you have any backstage knowledge on what the hell happened between this whole Effie and Jeff Jarrett stuff? I don't know how that all like. I feel like there was a lot left on the table there that didn't get materialized for all of us as fans, and I felt like Effie should have won that match. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I would agree too.
Yeah.
I guess the best I could say is Jeff Jarrett's being Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. But man, he went on a hell of a run too there for a hot minute, right? Like
he did.
Like
he did.
He like was everywhere, and then like he worked for WWE, and then like did something for him, and then like all of a sudden he like was doing the Ric Flair show that we were all a part of, which was sick.
How was that, by the way? That was really cool. Y'all were on the stage with him at the end of the show as like everyone was celebrating.
Yeah, like that whole weekend was absolutely wild in every shape or form. Being a part of that was it's fucking Ric Flair, dude. Like the greatest of all time, probably, or at least in the Mount Rushmore or whatever you want to call it. And obviously too, like Conrad likes GCW, and like we did the Nashville show and all that, and being a part of something that was probably like the biggest indie like show to date. They said it's like 10,000 people or something. Probably outside of All Out or All In or whatever it's called.
Would be
It was a Nashville Municipal, correct? I think it was.
What's
I think it was the Nashville Municipal Auditorium.
Yeah,
So,
and that's a legendary place.
Yes.
So like, it's just pretty sick. Where you're like, you have like these certain milestones. You don't know what they're gonna be, but you know when it like means something or it's a big deal. And of course, you have some guidelines of like, for example, like Corgan Hall or like Madison Square Garden or like these other events and stuff. But like, when it happens, you're like, oh shit, this was really happening. It was pretty sweet, and being a part of that battle royal, pre-show or not, whatever, who cares? Yeah, being a part of it was pretty sweet, and like making GCW like a big deal, which it is. But like having that, like them, like all of us coming in looking like we were gonna like take owner of it, and then having Mance win, which made Mance do AEW Rampage versus Mox. It's pretty sick. It's pretty sick when all that happens, especially when your friends are doing it with you. So.
Oh, for sure. It was bizarre in like the coolest way. Like that show was ending, and you see Ric Flair's like hugging like Jimmy Lloyd and Blake Christian, and you're like, what? Like, how did Jimmy Lloyd wind up here? This is amazing.
Jimmy is one of the most interesting, like like the Dos Equis commercials, like the most interesting man. It's Jimmy's like the most interesting boy.
He's one of my favorites, by the way. I'm not making fun of the man. I love the guy.
No, like it's fun to make fun of Jimmy, but also too, like we all know, like SGC, we all know Jimmy makes the wheel spin. He really does, in every way, shape, or form. Jimmy's the man. I love Jimmy, and it's pretty awesome having him in MLW. Like we pitched to Court like, you guys should book Jimmy. And Court had no idea who Jimmy Lloyd was. But then when we did that Battle Riot, and you had all these guys.
Oh, I think you muted yourself, Manders.
Yes.
There you go. Oh, you're good now. You're good now.
I think it was. I don't know what I did. When you have all these big names that were in the Battle Riot, right, and like. The biggest pop of the whole night was Jimmy Lloyd. And Court was like mind blowing. It was awesome. And it's like, told you. Like Jimmy Lloyd in Philly is the most over dude or over anyone. I don't care who it is. Hulk Hogan come in the building and freaking, or you know what I mean, or Ric Flair come to the building and Jimmy Lloyd would still be over it. Way more. It's awesome.
Hurt Business member Jimmy Lloyd. That's my favorite Jimmy Lloyd thing is he got the Hurt Business shirt at WrestleMania.
Yeah. So he was wearing his GCW shirt like he always does.
Yeah.
And they were like, "No, dude, you can't wear that." And he's like, "Okay, I'll wear this." And then like it became a whole thing. It was awesome. Yeah,
it is awesome.
And Jimmy just goes with it. That's what we love about him. He just goes with the wind.
I got a quick interview with Jimmy like. It was probably about a year or so ago at like one of the Atlanta center stage events for GCW, and he mentioned to me that one of his dream matches is Jeff Hardy, and like lo and behold, Jeff Hardy is going to be appearing at GCW soon. Which now Brett has said he isn't planning to wrestle, but like just the fact that Jeff Hardy is now affiliated at all with GCW seems pretty cool to me.
And it's because of guys like Mox.
Yeah,
it's because of guys like Gage. And like all the regulars and all that kind of stuff, and like what we put in, and it's pretty freaking sweet that Jeff Hardy is going to be there, whether he's wrestling or not. Some people were shitting on it, I saw, but it's like, come on.
Yeah, it's cool that he just wants to be involved at all. Like that's awesome. And I mean, can you speak a bit more towards, especially to maybe some of like our audience who might not be as like familiar with like GCW specifically, how important Nick Gage is just in general to like GCW and just like the whole scene. I have a thing in my head, and I don't know if I should explain it like this.
I'm not a religious person at all, right? But if I had to say like GCW is a religion, right? Nick Gage is like our Jesus Christ.
Sure.
In the sense of like the 20 plus years that dude's been through the ringer. When I talk about ringers, like he's been through the ring of fire, where he literally, in the audience of hardcore wrestling and deathmatch wrestling especially, where that's what GCW's bread and butter is, and through the triumphs and tribulations of Nick Gage, where he literally died in the ring and came back to life and been through prison. Talk about highs to highs and lows to lows. That guy's been through that. And like people gravitate towards like people who are real and have gone through shit. And he's the perfect example of that. And especially like a successful story like Nick. It's not the most glamorous way to get through and be successful, but people can gravitate and understand that. And I think that's what makes Nick Gage so great. And that's why he's a big deal to us. And he's the whole reason. I mean, there's other people, but he's the whole reason why GCW was created. This is why GCW is the way it is, because of guys like Nick Gage. And overall of that, he has a certain energy about him. Like when you think of like great coaches, right? Like I'm trying to think of coaches like Joe Gibbs or like Vince Lombardi or like all that kind of stuff. Like they have a certain presence and energy about them that like makes you a better performer. And Nick has that. There was a time where in the pandemic where Nick wasn't around because he got hurt. It was actually one of my matches at Beyond. It was a 6-man tag. But talk about a great match. It was me, Justice Mance versus Dickinson, Gage, and Deppen. Sounds great on paper. And that's when Nick got hurt or whatever. But like there was a time where like Nick wasn't really performing or really around. And like yeah, like GCW flourished obviously, and like they like we all did well. But like having somebody like that not in the locker room definitely showed like something's off today. I don't know what it is, but then we all like think about it, and it's like no, it's because of Nick. Like Nick makes the wrestling better. Just him being there, you know, and that's what he holds that maybe people don't maybe not know. There's a certain presence about him that makes you a better performer, and it's just the intensity he brings, man. The attitude, the excitement, all that, and that's what Nick does. Nick's awesome for that.
I want to ask about this is my last one because you've been very generous with your
your
time tonight. But I
you know
saw
we already talked in an hour. Like it just happens. It just fucking happens.
I saw this this beef on Twitter. You and Jordan Oliver.
Oh,
2 out of 3 stages of hell. What is your idea for 3 stages of hell with Jordan Oliver?
We were talking about it, and I don't even really know. But somebody commented it. I don't know if it was y'all or whoever, but it was like normal match first, second match maybe bull rope match, and then third match whatever Jordan would want to do. I feel like it'd be maybe ladder. I don't know. Maybe steel cage. Okay. I don't know. I know that's all kind of hard to do. I mean, that's one of the greatest matches of all time. I mean, obviously, 3 stages of hell has been a thing. It's not like an everyday thing, but like the one I can think of is like Austin Triple H.
Yeah.
I think that was Backlash. Yes.
Was No Way Out? No, because No Way Out was before WrestleMania.
No Way Out.
Yeah.
No Way Out. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
And
I'm actually wearing an Austin shirt right now, as a matter of fact. Just
yeah, hell yeah, there you go. He's he's like one of my favorite wrestlers. Like he's like the whole reason why I wanted to be a wrestler, why I watch wrestling. He was, I mean, there's a lot of people that say that, but like him and Sting were like my two, but
yeah. Good choices.
Yeah. I can't go wrong with those. And like
I feel like Stone Cold Steve Austin, if he's not familiar with Manders, he would be a Manders fan. Like I feel like Steve Austin would see you and he'd be like, "This is my kind of guy. Like this is a in-your-face, smash mouth, working man out there in the regular trunks, drinking beer after the match." Like
I've met him before.
Oh, okay.
One time, It was the Dallas Mania recently, and it's been a thing every year where me and George Kittle, because we were roommates in college, played football together, all that kind of stuff. Just to fast track it, we do a thing every year in WrestleMania where we go to WrestleMania, and obviously because George has been so successful in pro football, there's some things we get to do that probably I wouldn't be able to do or a normal fan would do. And we got backstage and I saw Rollins and, talked to him for a little bit. And then there's the man himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin sitting at catering, wanted to see George. And I shook his hand, said hello to him. And, he asked me if I was a pro wrestler and I told him I was a pro wrestler. And it was one of those things actually that we were saying earlier where he's like, just keep going, kid. That's all I got to tell you. So yeah, it was kind of sick. I met the man himself, and he's everything you think of. Like when you see him on TV, you're like, yeah, that's him for sure.
What was he eating at catering?
He just had coffee. I think he was just drinking coffee. He was like in khaki pants and some gym dad shoes, and he had like a sweater vest, not sweater vest, like a one of those like sport jacket things, and he was just sitting there drinking coffee. I was like, what the? Like, it's wild.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have a question about Kittle. Did you know what he was doing this past year at Mania when he did it?
I was there.
I know you're there. Were you clued in?
Was I clued in?
Yeah.
No.
No,
it was not. So we were there, so we went right, and this motherfucker keeps going to the bathroom, and I'm like, obviously, there's a lot of people at Mania, and the bathrooms are long as shit, right? So I get why he's been gone for a while, but it's happened way too many times, and he's not coming back with beer. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, what are you doing? But I didn't say that yet, and I think it was a couple segments before, like 3 or 4, and he was like, "Hey, so I didn't tell you this," and I'm like, "Okay, go on." And he's like, "So I'm gonna be in this next segment in a couple more," and then he was like, "I'm gonna clothesline the Miz," or he didn't say clothesline. He said, "I'm gonna lariat the Miz. What do you think of that?" And I was just like, "No way."
My move, dude.
Yeah. I was like, no way. I was like, you're fucking with me right now. You're fucking with me, right? And he's like, no. And he's like, I'm serious. Me and Pat McAfee. And I was like, that's sick. Okay, cool. And then it happened, right? And then the show ends or whatever, and we go backstage, and now I'm in the damn trailer with Pat McAfee drinking Miller Lite. It was sick. Or I think it was Coors Light. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I was drinking beer with Pat McAfee. So it's me, George, and Pat McAfee drinking beer, just talking bullshit.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
he's done great too, Pat McAfee.
He's the man.
Oh yeah, McAfee. He talked about when he's at Mania. He's like, yeah, just a couple guys. He didn't mention names, but he said we're just out after the match drinking beers, and now we know one of the names.
Now we know.
He's out there drinking
He
beers.
He made a funny bit where he sees me and he goes, that mustache, bet it's been through a lot of glass beverages or whatever. he made a joke like that, and I started dying. I was like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Pat. And me and him kind of got connected a little bit too, where obviously he played football for the Colts, and another former Hawkeye that I got to tag with, who also played for the Colts, Pat Angerer. I think he was AFC Defensive Player of the Year for 1 year, something like that. So he didn't play in the league long because of it's hard to make a living in the NFL, and that connection right there was kind of cool. And then he was like, "Oh, I've seen Pat's wrestling matches," and he was like, "Oh, that was you." And I was like, "Yeah, it was." And he thought it was he thought it was 6. So that's kind of cool. That kind of all got in there.
Last question I've got, and then we have one that we always finish up with.
Jensen, this better be a good question. This man just told us about drinking on the bus with Kittle and McAfee. I don't know how we're topping this story.
Well,
so
you were going to ask. Well, you were going to ask yours anyways, right?
I did ask for Jordan Oliver, and that turned.
I thought you were going to ask about the one we always ask everybody.
Okay. Oh yeah, we will ask.
I think me go back to the me and Jordo. We've had some matches together that are. We just had like the same chemistry, and I'm sure it'll happen some point, especially if I won the bunkhouse and he's still the champ. And every time we wrestled, we've had like some really good matches, and I'm sure it'll happen in some shape or form. Maybe not 3 Stages of Hell. I hope it would be. It'd be kind of sick. And Jordan likes to go 20, 30 minutes. So, and not that I don't mind it, but for Jordan, I would do it easily.
Yeah. Well, he's a guy, Jordan Oliver. We talk about him often on the show. Like when we do our interview segments here, most wrestlers we talk to at one point or another bring up Jordan Oliver about either it's someone they love wrestling or someone who's got a great mind for the business or someone that they like confine in to like help them like with this or that. It's a name that always pops up is Jordan Oliver.
He's a go-getter, dude. He's a go-getter. He's like what we were saying earlier. Like he's got all the talent in the world, but like his passion and pride for the business and his hustle really speaks more volumes than his talent. It's awesome.
Okay, I'm gonna steal Jeremy's last question. So we're gonna wrap it up here. We've taken enough of your time. So we ask everybody this, Manders. What is the coolest thing in your room?
In my room?
Yeah, like right the room that you're in. Is there anything cool in your room? The lamp?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Story on that. We were in Wyoming for GCW, and which is wild to say, because there's no pro wrestling in Wyoming. And I don't remember what the store was called, but it was like Dave's like fleet, basically. It was like a farmer's market type of thing. And me and my girlfriend at the time saw it, and we had this bit where we would say "I love Lamp" from Anchorman, which is funny as fuck. It's like one of my favorite movies. And obviously, of course, I'm like a cowboy boot, and it's a lamp. So we did the whole like "I love Lamp," and I think it was like $30. And the best part was we had to take it on the plane, right? Back. So we like drove back to Denver, which is like 2 hours. And I'm like, I don't know how we're going to get this guy on the plane. Like, we don't have a box. We don't have enough baggage, like a bag to put it in there. And we're like, there's no way this is going to work. Like, we're going to have to like ship it or not have it or whatever. Like, we're kind of freaking out about it. And we just kind of told them the story, like the TSA, and they like we're like, okay, like go through it, like you can go through with it. And then like we get on the plane, and then they like the guy was like, all right, well, it can't fit on the up top and all that stuff, so we'll just put it in the coat section. So it was just awesome, like how everything worked. Where normally on airplanes it doesn't. Like for example, when I won the goddamn SCI tournament, I was thinking like, okay, it's going to be the same scenario with the lamp. No, it wasn't. They fucking told me I can't go through with it. And then they wanted me to ship it. But I'm like, it's 5 a.m. FedEx is not open. I don't know anybody here. I'm not from here. Can I just please take it? And they're like, no, you could use this as a weapon. I'm like, I'm not going to use a fucking trophy that I won as a weapon.
Yeah.
My fist would be more of a weapon than a damn trophy. And I had to deconstruct the trophy and put it in a box. And then when I got home, I had to put it all back. And that was a pain in the fucking ass.
Oh.
Yeah.
But that's what you do for pro wrestling.
I mean, this guy working extra hard because I mean, you're out there working like for real out during the day, and now you got to spend extra time screwing together a trophy.
Yeah, like I was like, dude. But at the end of the day, it's like, in my experiences in my life, like everything has to be hard.
Sure,
that's just how it works. So I'm just like, you know what? All right, another thing. So yeah, so that's the coolest thing I think is that lamp.
A great story behind it too.
Thank you
so much. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Manders. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Let everyone know where they can find you at.
You can find me at on Instagram and Twitter at @1called_Manders. I'm pretty sure if you type in Manders besides me and the nutrition lady, you can find me. I looked that up before. It's pretty wild. And you can find me on Facebook. If you type in Cornbell Cowboy, that'll come up, or One Call Manders will come up too. And then if you're looking for like shirts and all that stuff, I just posted one of the coolest shirts I ever did. This guy named Riley. This guy named Riley made it. He's like a graphic designer. He's really fucking good. And there's like a bunch of other shirts that he made for me, which I didn't expect. That he was like, hey, whenever you're done with this one, here's a bunch more. And I was like, sick, okay. You can find that new shirt at Pro Wrestling Tees. If you type in Manders, I'm sure it'll come up. Deathmatch Worldwide is another one. There's a bunch of cool shit for my stuff, and yeah.
Thank you again for joining us. All the links are down below in the description of this video. Everybody, go support, go check out everything Manders is doing. And I saw that shirt on Twitter. That is
I just found it as well. Very nice shirt.
Yeah, it's sick. Too bad it's too many colors. it's too expensive to make. So I was like, here you go, Pro Wrestling Tees. Thank you.
Manders, thank you again for your time tonight. We really appreciate it. Congratulations again on winning SEI. Best of luck to everything in the future. And guys, we will be right back here on the Spotlight. Big thank you to One Called Manders. Again, we went about an hour and 20 minutes with One Called Manders. Appreciate it, Fernando. Saying great interview. Like it was a lot of fun. He had a lot of great stories to tell us. If you missed the interview during the live show, or for some reason you skipped it, what's wrong with you? It'll be cut up. It'll be on Fightful Overbooked in the coming days. Plenty of articles coming out of that, especially the stuff with George Kittle and Pat McAfee and Jon Moxley and Steve Austin, and working with MLW and wanting to go to Japan. Manders, he hasn't been around for super long compared to, relatively speaking, I guess, but he's already very well traveled and is already had, just done a lot in the business. Look forward to continue to following and watching his career as it grows. All right, everybody, we're about 3 hours deep into the show. Appreciate everybody who has stuck around this entire time. Thank you as always for tuning in, listening, checking out the podcast, checking out the replay on youtube.com/Fightful. We'll be back next Thursday, probably talking some SummerSlam, probably talking AEW Fallout, whatever happens this week. Everything else going on in the world of wrestling. Don't follow me on Twitter or X. Follow me or follow Stephen Jensen at FightTalk_ on X/Twitter, and go to youtube.com/Fightful. You're already there. Or if you're listening on podcast, go there now and subscribe. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. Go to Fightful Overbooked. Subscribe over there. We're trying to get to like 20,000 subscribers. I'll set an actual like good goal for us. 20,000 subscribers on Fightful Overbooked. We're trying to get there. And The Weeds is live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Fightful Overbooked from 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern. That's myself and Joel Pearl. We have Cam Hawkins, the great Seahawk. He's going to be on the show tomorrow previewing NXT Great American Bash with us. So that'll be a lot of fun. And we just did an interview with Bobby Orlando yesterday. That's on In the Weeds. I got an article up on Fightful.com right now. And also that'll be up on Fightful Overbooked as a singular interview later on this afternoon. So go to Fightful Overbooked, check out all the content we have over there. Support all the great content creators we have over there as well. All right, that's going to do it for this show. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for checking us out. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. We'll be back next week on The Spotlight.